Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsit, John Kays, Tommy Swagnut, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brex, Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bosnail, Sampson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
But yeah, no, not Pikey. No, not at all.
Hey, when did you go? When did you
I detest Pikeys.
Back off your mic a little bit.
Right, here? Here,
Perfect.
good?
That's better.
Nathan, when did you go on? How long ago?
I mean, when did it go on? I sent the link out about 5 minutes ago, tops.
I don't know what the hell's going on where I am because I ain't getting it.
If you've got no signal, you've got no signal, right? If you can't pick up a link from Skype if the phone's not receiving anything.
Yes, that's it then.
Right. So, distance-wise, since you're into your audio, does this still sound good, Nathan?
Just don't. If you talk directly into any mic, you'll pop the diaphragm, which makes a loud sound. Whereas even if it's an inch or two off your mouth, so long as you're talking past the diaphragm. So if you were right on top of the mic,
so it doesn't actually touch it because obviously you've got the compressor in it and it will set it off, right?
What I mean is, if you put your hand in front of your face and go pee, with your hand directly in front of your face, an inch away, go pee.
Pee.
Right, you can feel the jet of air on your hand, right?
Of course, it's going to directly hit it. The jet will hit the mic.
So you don't want that to happen. So you want to talk past your mic if it's close. So you can get close, but if you get close, just talk past the diaphragm so that the jet of air doesn't hit the diaphragm.
Right, so if I'm talking like this, there is no jet of air that can touch it, right?
Yeah, and you're quite close to the mic. Exactly.
Exactly right. Okay, that is how I thought it was working. Yeah. It's just that
most people talk directly into their mic, and
all right, that's
fine if you're 2-3 feet away, but it's not so fine if you're 2-3 inches away, because then any P or S sound will just pop the mic's diaphragm and you get a really loud sound.
It's this bloody bendy arm thing where it keeps bending back down. I'm guessing. Sorry about the mic quality in general as well.
Fine. Everyone sounds fine. Most mics are good. Even phone mics are okay, as long as you don't fiddle with them. Chocolate's mic is fine until he starts grabbing it because he's in a noisy environment. But that isn't the problem. The problem is him grabbing it that makes the noise. There we go. It's an omnidirectional mic, so having it closer to you, it will pick you up clearer to a certain extent compared to the background noise. But with an omnidirectional mic on a phone, it really doesn't make a great deal of difference how close you get it. If you're in a load of noise and a noisy environment, you just can't do anything about it. That's going to get into the mic 3 inches off your mouth or 2 inches off your mouth or a foot off your mouth. That noise is getting in.
I'm thinking this is probably the best, like this sort of area. Do you want to know what it was that made me think that I needed it closer? Was because it wasn't showing up on the side here, that it was actually picking me up at all.
These newbies, when they come in,
Well, no, the only reason we're speaking about it is so that, you know, Nathan can have the quality that he likes, and it can then be stuck at that quality, you know? Never
yeah.
to
I call him the sound Nazi.
Well, I'm a bit like that though, actually, Neil. Like, if I was running a live stream, then I would want it to be to sound as professional as possible. So, like,
Well,
I
when you
completely
listen to the
understand
show, when you listen to the show, you appreciate it. Like when he puts it on the re-up and you listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, damn, I sound terrible on this show. I need to get a mic.
So, microphone boost, like, I have it on 0 decibels, right? I don't actually have a clue what that even means because its standard is on 12, right? So, yeah, what does that even mean, Nathan?
No idea what you're talking about. But whatever you're doing, it's fine. Just leave it like that. The mic quality isn't the issue. It is 99 times out of 100 user error. It's nothing to do with anybody's quality. So, as I say, if you've got a crap mic, but you get it the right distance away and you leave it the fuck alone, it'll sound fine.
Mm-hmm.
Two worst things: a background noise. Not a lot you can do about that. But if you try and negate it by fiddling with the diaphragm of the mic, that is to say, you grab hold of the mic, what do you think that's going to do? Do you think your fingers on a sensitive mic diaphragm are going to be louder or quieter than background noise? Obviously,
Not
they're going to be
louder.
quieter. Yeah? No. So you end up with your finger noise going into the mic and all that kind of nonsense. Or
Exactly.
no mic discipline. So, for instance, as I'm giving this explanation and you're off mute going, yeah, through the top of me with your mic wide open, that sounds like this right now. That sounds fucking awful, crack villain. Yeah? So when someone's talking, resist the urge to open your mic wide open and then start blarting through them. Because it sounds horrendous. You can't follow along with one person if two people have decided that they're going to nod along. And I hear it on almost every podcast when there's guests. The guests don't have mic discipline. Therefore, they'll open their chops and start talking directly through what anybody's saying. And you just don't hear either of them.
Understood.
That said, I'm a bit more chilled than I was, because when I first started running the show, that's the only thing you think you can control, you know, because that's the worst offender for noise quality. So tell your guests what to do and how to do it isn't just, I've learned not to do that, because there's only a limited amount of control you can have over your guests in Discord. In here, you're trusted people that I feel I can tell, and you'll just go, okay, fine, whatever, and just do whatever needs to be done. If it's sitting 6 inches back or turning the mic gain down. Normally with QE, though, that said, he's removed himself from getting told off because he stays in Discord now. Doesn't come into the panel, otherwise he'd get an earful. Right? He's just turned. I've set his mic perfectly. I spent a considerable amount of time with him, and all he does is, as soon as I've finished, he goes away and whacks the gain right up and says, "People in Discord can't hear me loud enough." And you're like, okay, then you need to redo all of the settings from scratch with your gain. The first thing you do is set mic gain. So if I go through the process with him, the first thing I do is set his mic gain. Then I go through all the other things that need to be done to get it to the end result on his Discord and to his audience. Now, what do you think I'm going to be focused on? How well is Discord hear him? No. How well the audience hear him is my primary focus. So that's what I do. And then after they're finished, he goes to the beginning of the chain, which is his mic gain, and just turns it right back up again. So he sounds horrendous. You're like, well, you're just into not only distorting and clipping the mic, you're also into overloading every single compressor setting, every single limiter setting that I've set. You're just into all of them at 100%. So it sounds horrendous. You're like, okay, I don't know what else I can do. So since the last time I've done it, I've just republished my fiddling and faffing of my own volition, mainly because I've got a new mic. I wouldn't be doing it if I hadn't. And just, publish the settings. And I think to myself, if you want to concern yourself with how good you sound, you'll pay attention to that. And if you like what I've done in the past before you turned your mic gain right up, you'll pay attention to those videos and then just copy the settings. But there we go. That's obviously up to the individual and their show.
Well,
QE's show is his show.
Why don't you have an orientation? Like if somebody comes on, you're gonna let them on the panel. I wish you would have told me this, like right before I came on the panel.
No, because
So
I can't proactively tell people how to use their mic. You just hope they'll just leave it alone and just talk and not really concern themselves with it at all. Because most of the stuff that they're using is automated. The software itself, this meter has got an automated gain and I believe some sort of overload setting in it. So you don't really need to concern yourself very much. So yeah, just talk.
No, I mean they're nodding along. Like I got that later on. I started paying attention. I'm like, wow, it's not good to like, yeah. Oh yes, I agree. You find out through trial and error.
And in these modern times, you're so much more disciplined, Neil.
I'm not better.
Well, no, that's why I ask questions.
Now.
That's why I ask questions about it at the now, before the show goes live, because obviously then that way I can make sure that I am disciplined in it, because it's something that I am actually really interested in. Is mic quality, how someone sounds, all of those things are important to myself. And the way Nathan does his show, or whatever, it always sounds good. So I'm like, okay, unless Chocolate comes in and his microphone is just like, I don't know what.
Somebody told me it sounded like somebody rattling dice in a cup, and you do the crapshoot.
Yeah,
CeeLo. Sounds like he's playing CeeLo.
But do you know what confused me? Right, so when I'm speaking to you now, right, the bottom, you have the right-hand side, you have the little bars. I was thinking it wasn't picking my voice up, Nathan, right? Because I have the round circle around me, but the three little bars, it's like they only come up if it's closer to my mouth. So that was confusing me, thinking that it wasn't picking my voice up. So I was moving it closer, but now I've realized that actually you guys can hear me. That's why this has been good for me to realize this. So then the air jet isn't, because I know all about that, the air jet hitting it and hitting the diaphragm and then it setting off the compressor inside of the microphone.
And there's no compressor. It's just the diaphragm.
Not in this one there isn't.
It just overloads the diaphragm. There's no compressor involved. It's just the diaphragm is just a diaphragm, and just a jet of air makes it distort, just makes it move more than it's capable of moving.
Which mic? I've got a much better microphone that it has like a full on like guitar jack on it, right? I need to get like a an adapter for it. But yeah, this sounds fine. So
sounds
I'm not
fine.
Gonna mess with it.
Nothing wrong with what 90% of people don't care. The only thing they care about is a massive plosive suddenly causing a huge sound and distortion. And that's capable of being done on the highest quality of microphone there is. Some of them are more susceptible to plosives. So, increasing the mic quality isn't what's needed. This is a testament, I might say, to what are the general concerns on Flat Earth debate. Are we worried about some current globe argument that's going to leave me with sleepless nights? Nope. Am I worried about the globe paradigm not being influenced enough on the general society and, it not having enough people realizing that there's an alternative view available? No, I'm not concerned about that either. What am I concerned about? I'm concerned with having buttery smooth sound on my show. Because why? Well, because there's no real concerns from our opponent at the moment. There's nothing to trouble me at all. So I'll focus on my sound quality.
I sense that. This is why I've asked so many questions.
If you go back in time and look at the Isle of Man debate, you check out how many videos I made about how concerned I was with my mic quality back then. Yeah, I'll tell you for nothing, it is none. Zero. Bearing in mind I'm a techie and I'm into all this stuff, I had none. Because I was deeply concerned with how I was going to explain a physical geometric sphere edge obstruction in the distance formerly known as an Earth curve horizon. Very concerned about it before I realised how they were begging the question and how the calculator excluded perspective and all the things we discussed with the Black Swan. I didn't know any of that back then, so I was deeply troubled. Yeah, I was in the thick of the debate. Now, no, there isn't any debate. There's no troubling globe position that we haven't already overcome. So I'll worry about people hearing the extra little bit of quality while I absolutely rip apart some nonsense Glober claim that comes, or the devil's advocate position that normally Arwin puts forward.
Speaking of sound, how's mine?
Pardon? What now?
Speaking of sound, how am I coming over?
Can't hear you. No, you sound perfect.
With that,
Because yesterday, because I'm still on my phone until I get these computer acoustics. But yesterday I caused an echo in the after show, and I don't know why, but I
It
don't
was
want to do it
Arwin.
again.
It wasn't you. I went back after the fact because I had Skype up. I just had to blame somebody, and because you were talking, you were easy. So I blamed you, and I went back while you were talking. It was still echoing. I'm like, this is getting so bad. I need to do something about it. It could be someone else. I can't see. So in the middle of your presentation, I have to then come away from your presentation while you're talking about it, and you don't know that's happening because there's no screen share. It's being screen recorded. And I went in, and there's Arwin, mic wide open, flashing away, causing the entirety of the problem. As soon as I muted him, went away.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I thought it was me, and I didn't want it to happen again.
Yeah, it was Arwin.
Hey, I just sent you some slides in Master B.
Got the first one just about ready. It's trilateration versus triangulation.
Yeah, we're going to be, hold on one second while I set up here myself. We've heard this already from the people trying to throw a wrench into the sextant argument, but to no avail, of course. Hold on, it's just loading up, and I want to see it here on my iPad versus my iPhone. Okay, here we go. So, which slide do you have up first? Do you have?
It's a picture that's got two squares. One's got a protractor, and one's got a ruler. And it says trilateration versus triangulation.
Yeah.
It's got a man in the background.
Okay, so this is the actual piece that you'll see coming off of the next slide, but it says trilateration uses known distances to pinpoint precise locations. Triangulation uses known angles to calculate unknown distances. If you go to the next slide and say, where did this originate from? And you can see here, it's Department of Defense. So this is something that's put out, not by a flat earther now, but we've heard the ballers and anti-flat earthers say, oh, you're just trilaterating. You're not triangulating with a sextant. You remember that?
Yes, well, they used it with a GPS claim, i.e. the satellites and their trilateration would be their answer to it.
Right, but they were trying to say that's what the sextant is doing.
Correct.
And we're going to go through a series of statements here. So go to the next slide. This is from omnicalculator.com. What is triangulation in surveying? Triangulation definition. Triangulation, when related to geometry or surveying, is a method of determining the location of an unknown point by forming a triangle or triangles to it from known points. There are two general types of triangulation. Intersection, you triangulate an unknown landmark by making multiple observations at different locations. And resection, you determine your own position by observing multiple known landmarks from a single location. Next slide. Triangulation versus trilateration. Both triangulation and trilateration are methods of surveying based on trigonometry. However, while triangulation relies only on angle measurements to locate the unknown point, trilateration uses distance measurements. Now, I'll pause here and ask a question. Is the sextant an angle measurement device?
Yes.
All right. Fun fact. While triangulation has an important history in surveying and navigation, GPS uses trilateration to determine your location, not triangulation. The satellites only measure distances. Next slide. What is triangulation in land surveying? In land surveying, triangulation is the method of measuring the angles of a network of triangles. This information is then used to determine distances and relative positions of locations spread over the survey area using trigonometry. What is the basic principle of triangulation survey? The principle of triangulation method is that if the coordinates of two vertices of a triangle or the length of one of its sides and its angles are known, we can calculate the coordinates of the third side or the length of the remaining sides. I believe this was the last slide. What is the difference between triangulation and trilateration in surveying? The main difference between triangulation and trilateration are triangulation relies on the measurement of angles, trilateration relies on the measurement of sides. The measuring stations should be mutually visible for the triangulation method. In trilateration, the distances can be measured without intervisibility of the stations. What are the applications of triangulation? Some common applications of triangulation method are in large-scale land surveying to determine the accurate position of locations. 2, in civil engineering projects to accurately locate center line of long bridges and tunnels, etc. And 3, the coup d'etat, land and sea navigation. Jasmine J. Ma and Purnima Singh, PhD. Thank you for validating what a sextant does.
Cool. Thank you for that. Hey, John,
You got it.
by the way.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing fine, mighty fine. Pretty good. How are you?
All right. There was something I was wanting to work in yesterday, but there was a lot going on. Akuma virus said that things fly off at a tangent. Do you remember that?
He said he didn't say things fly off on a tangent, but yeah, just aiding the confusion of his argument.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, if things are flying off at a tangent to what? The horizon's not you can't draw a tangent to the horizon. So where do you think they're going, buddy?
I don't know. As I say, he said he wasn't claiming he was drawing a tangent or things weren't flying off at a tangent. That's not what he was claiming. Now, undoubtedly, that would have, given the opportunity, led to him actually claiming it later on down the road. But we got bored with him and started to lay into a white knight who was moaning about the language we were using.
Yeah, what was up with that dude? That was just pathetic.
Well, he wanted to cut off everything I said and do the typical rumpus trick, which is claim that while he's interrupting, he's being interrupted. So he gave his position, said, that's my argument. I waited a couple of seconds, started to summarise it, and they started immediately talking through me and claimed that I was interrupting his summary. It's like, what the hell? Yeah, okay, Rumpus, the second.
Yeah, I would apologize for bringing that up, but I'm glad I did. We got an extra hour out of you, buddy.
Right.
Hey, Neil, and hold on. And Neil, when I said he was fearless, I didn't say he was intelligent. Okay? We're honest.
Why, I said something?
But you're saying C the whole time? Because that's I think that's what got it started. As I said, I actually liked how fearless he was.
I'm just tired of reading him talking trash in chat that Nathan still don't know what he's talking about pertaining Coriolis. Glad we got that cleared up. He's the one that don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to believe him, and he's just some random dude on the internet, like that's on them. If they want to believe that crap, then they'll never figure it out. If all they're ever going to do is believe people that just spout nonsense.
Well, I also wanted to see, you're right, he is fearless, because I wanted to see if he'd admit it. Or he'd say that in Nathan's face that he doesn't know what he said. He didn't really say. He said he knows part of it. He basically doesn't think Nathan knows what Coriolis is at all. So he told a half-truth.
Well, it's hard for him to deny that Nathan knows Coriolis completely because Nathan embarrasses him like every time on it.
These people don't even know what a straight line is. How do you think you're going to get anything else out of them if they don't know what a straight line is versus a curved line?
Correct.
I think they know. They just don't want to believe it, you know?
Did anybody
Well,
else?
then he's not fear. Well,
Did
then
anybody
he's
else
not
lose?
fearless.
Did anybody else lose connection for a second? It gave me a warning that there was some internet connection problem. I don't seem to have
Yeah.
an issue.
Yeah, but you're back.
It did me too. Might be England. I couldn't access the internet at all yesterday, and any form of social media for a couple of days prior. It was on and off. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it shouldn't affect the recording. No matter what happens, the recording will run. But as soon as I run live, if that issue happens while I'm live, that might cut us off. Just be warned.
Yeah, back
Just
to what I'm
before-
saying. Back to, if I may, with John.
You can
This is why.
just one more thing. If that happens, that'll be it. So I'll just assume, given that there's been an issue now, if it causes an issue on the live show, I'll end the live show and we will continue as normal, and it'll just end up going out as the pre-recorded show, if that makes sense. If there's an issue, just so you're aware. I just don't want everyone saying, "Oh, you're going to go back live again," and that if there's a great conversation going, I don't want that to be the thing that interrupts whatever conversation, because I want you to know in advance if there's an issue, that show will end. It will just continue being recorded for the length that it would have been had it been live.
Got it. So I don't know if the fearless is the right word.
Well, fear and intelligence aren't, linked. Usually the dumbest people are fearless.
Yeah, I'm not saying I argue with what you're saying in that sense, but having experienced Bob the Fallacy Guy now more than I ever thought, because I don't go to watch his videos, but obviously he's been keen to come here and spew some nonsense. Some might say he was fearless. And then, of course, with Virus, every time you mention his name, he's going to come in because he needs attention. So I'm not sure if it's fearless. I think it's a need for attention, and they'll do anything to get it.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this should be of particular note if you are using an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Arwin, who's joined just before I myself on camera for the introduction. Thank you very much indeed, Arwin. We've also got Neil, 10th Man, Crack Villain, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome at one and all.
Greetings,
Hello.
all.
Yo, yo.
I
Hey,
thought I
good
was
morning.
just in time before.
What, just in time being 3 seconds before I put myself on camera. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay. I'll
Thank
try
you,
to be
Arwin.
quicker.
And
You did start a little early, though.
no, I did not.
I
started exactly on
didn't
time.
join until I'd heard you moan about Orwin, and then I thought it's late. I can't join now.
Hey, Adam, good to have you.
Hello.
I don't think we're like yesterday yet to hear anything from anybody in Discord. Hopefully, somebody will say a quick hello. I should really sound check them in the pre-show. I keep forgetting. Hello, Discord.
I actually handed out a couple of links to people in my chat on the early bird show that were asking for Discord links. So there might be some new people getting in.
Try that one more time. Hello, Discord.
Hello.
Oh, thank God I didn't need the tumbleweed sound effect. Thank you, Fleric.
Hey, good morning from Discord.
Hey, Stag. Thank you for replying. Excellent stuff. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Let's keep the enthusiasm level high. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
No, you need off of that.
Fair enough.
No.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
Not whatsoever. None. Not.
If it was rotating, the rate of rotation would be based on R.
Measured in
So
radians.
you're
Yeah,
gonna need off
also-
of that too.
The thing about rotation is that if nothing is deviating, then it's safe to assume you're not rotating. Ballers and anti-flat earthers still like to think so, that you can actually have rotation without anything deviating.
We've
The
we've
thing is-
tried to say that to them, Arvin, but they never get our drift.
Ah,
No, the thing about rotation is you're rotating.
How profound. So they claim there's a 15 degrees now deviation, as it is claimed Earth is a non-inertial turning reference frame, and from that non-inertial claimed to be turning reference frame, it is claimed by the globe we will see things appear to drift from our vantage point, turning beneath things not attached. That would mean you look at an aeroplane and watch it take a perceived curved path, because Earth is claimed to turn beneath it. Of course, for us to see a perceived curved path in an aeroplane, that would mean we're turning beneath it to see the curved path in the aeroplane. And if we're turning beneath aeroplanes, it shortens their flights when travelling west. And that does not happen at all. So we're not turning beneath aeroplanes. It would be really obvious if we were. We're not.
Yeah, that's literally.
And that's
what
just
we were
for
doing yesterday.
and that's just for apparent deviations, right? That's just the Coriolis deviations that we would see. On top of that, you would also feel if you are actually moving because you're part of a turning thing that you're standing on. You'd feel it in some way.
I'm going to try the
Yeah.
the quantum eraser method in regards to Coriolis debunking, because it's a two-step process. First, establish with your opponent that they actually understand what Coriolis effect actually is. Now, most of the time, you'll find that they don't. So his answer to this is get them to define what Coriolis effect is. Now, I'm going to do that now. It would be the not actual deflection observed in an item travelling through an inertial reference frame as you observe it from a non-inertial turning reference frame turning beneath it. That is Coriolis effect. Now, if they don't understand that effect, there's no point arguing with them, because they're not going to understand when you've won. Now, what is the cause of any, not Earth-based, but any Coriolis effect? The cause of Coriolis effect, that would be you observing a not actual deflection in an item in an inertial reference frame because you are turning beneath it. So the cause of Coriolis is you turning beneath things that aren't attached to the frame of reference you're turning on. For example, you are on a roundabout, turning beneath a tree branch. As you turn, it looks like the tree branch comes towards you, goes out of view, and then comes back again. And it will continue to do that as you turn underneath it. That would be the not actual deflection of the tree because, you are turning beneath it. So to have the Coriolis effect, as is claimed by the globe, you must be turning underneath stuff. That is the cause of Coriolis effect. Now, once you've established that with your opponent, you then dispense with the actual Coriolis effect because you just focus on the cause of it. So, cause of Coriolis, if the globe claims we have it, is us turning beneath stuff. Well, it would be patently obvious if that was the case. We would notice if we were turning underneath stuff. In the same way you'd notice the tree coming towards you and going away on a roundabout. Well, you'd notice because we'd turn underneath aeroplanes, we'd observe curved paths in drones as they curved away from you at whatever velocity, rim, edge velocity, whatever you want to call it, on a claim to be turning Earth. So if at your location it's 600 mile an hour rim velocity at 15 degrees an hour, well then you're going to see your drone launch from the ground and whiz away from your perception while it hovers at 600 miles an hour. Why? Well, because you're turning away from it at that rate, according to the claim we spin. Now, that doesn't happen. So the cause of their claim, which is Coriolis effect on a claim to be turning Earth, the cause is Earth claim to be turning beneath stuff, and we would notice. Move over to showing exactly how we're not turning how we're not turning underneath things, as is claimed to be the cause of Coriolis effect. And the response we get is, we wouldn't expect to see Earth turning underneath. And then they reposition the claim to make it your flat Earth claim. Why would you, the flat earther, expect to see things turning underneath? Because it's the cause of Coriolis effect. If we had it, we'd see it. It's just that simple. We don't. So now you've got to go through this rigmarole of changing your globe claim that we'll see drift at 15 degrees an hour into being an extraordinary claim a flat earthers make. Why would the flat earther make a claim that we're turning underneath? You silly idiot. Flat earther, let's debunk it, because it doesn't happen. Well, we're both singing from the same hymn sheet at that point, because we're saying Earth doesn't turn underneath, and the anti-flat earth are saying Earth shouldn't be expected to see any drift because it's turning underneath. So you're both saying the same thing. Meanwhile, the globe claims there'll be Coriolis effect that is caused by Earth turning underneath stuff. If it was occurring, we would notice. Anybody got anything to add? If not, we'll move on with housekeeping. Any evidence?
Yeah.
Yourself?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead,
there?
go ahead.
Yeah, so when I go outside and I see the clouds moving, that's what I see. It's the clouds moving. The air, I feel the wind. Then you see the sun's transit. Same thing at night with the stars and the moon. Obviously, we're not turning, or else what you just said would be apparent to all. But since they're admitting there's no drift, then it's obvious that we're stationary and the movement is of the luminaries above us.
Indeed, and in terms of the navigation aspect, that's precisely how it's considered, regardless of your fundamentalist religious belief that you're on a sphere and justification thereafter triangulation. Earth is at the centre. As far as we can ascertain, we're a unique, fixed position at the centre of it all. Now, that might be terribly concerning to a heliocentrist who would much prefer that the sun is at the centre of our solar system and we are an insignificant speck of dust floating through an ever-expanding infinite vacuum. Deeply insignificant. However, when it comes to even navigation on a globe, you will be considering yourself to be at the centre of the universe in order to do this. A geocentric position must be taken to do triangulation. Now, you don't have to like it, but we, where we are, do occupy a very, very special place because it seems we're at the centre of it all. Now that, if it doesn't make you contemplate your existence a little bit, makes you a stone-cold psychopath. Because it should. It's one of the few things in this argument that actually terrified me. When I first got here, I'm like, I don't like that bit because it means there must be God. I don't like that. There's a certain amount of skeletons I don't want to open the door on ever again. And if there's a God, I might have to. So that bit scared the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie about it. Eventually, there was no way away from it. There's no way of getting around it. And even the heliocentric claim to be scientists admit it.
Yeah, that's true. They've effectively shown this as well, apparently so, in their own observations that see the axis of evil, for instance, coined and dubbed axis of evil due to what it was that the observations show. I believe taken on the equator and also on the northern hemisphere, showing several galaxies aligning, and not only aligning, but seemingly as if they were coming toward the center point, and that being the Earth, over a period of 30 years. So they admit this themselves, and they also have things that they can show you to show that they admit this.
Yeah, Jaren's been doing it recently on his channel. So just go and check out his I think it's 100 quotes that show the Earth isn't moving or something like that. But yeah, just listen to him rattling them off one after the next, while they tell you about how terrible it is to concede the position we must accept as true, which is that we're at the centre of it all, because it's very unfavourable to admit that. And I'll say it time and time again, it's astonishing. I mean, I've heard all these quotes from Jaren over the years, but listening to a nice, concise list of them rattled off one after the next, every time I was at least shaking my head going, yeah, amazing. How do we believe this stuff? Is it actually of our own doing? Is it just the anti-flat earth rhetoric being pumped into the mainstream when it's needed that keeps this crap going, that keeps the heliocentric lie alive? You've got to ask yourself, how is it being kept alive? Why is it constantly punted on the mainstream media? Why is every movie going to have a globe in it? There's got to be a conscious effort to do that, surely, at some stage, without sounding like a conspiratard. Because it seems to me like it's consciously pumped out at every opportunity. You got something presented, Adam?
Just in relation to that, I couldn't find it in time yesterday, but when intense presentation, and you mentioned it there, this unique position, and it reminded me of the Hubble quote, which I'd just like to read. That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is to do with Edward Hubble, and basically why it says it here. It's become common in creationist circles. This is a critique of it, which is nice to read. In creationist circles, to reference the quotes by Edwin Hubble that suggest extreme bias on Hubble's part, introducing the cosmological principle. And this is why he introduces the cosmological principle, because such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, but the unwelcome supposition of a favoured location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favoured position, of course, is intolerable. Moreover, it represents a discrepancy with the theory, because the theory postulates homogeneity. The first bit's destroying. The second bit is, I think, more telling, and it tells you that why we couldn't occupy a unique position is because it would represent a discrepancy with the theory. So not based on anything observed, yeah, because those indicate we're that way. But the reason we reject the obvious nature of our central position is because it represents a discrepancy with the reality, and that's
with their quote-unquote theory, which is colloquial in their definition and vernacular. It's not a scientific theory that it's in contradiction to. It's with their mystic Meg theory that it's in contravention of. In other words, reality contravenes their notions of a heliocentric world, therefore isn't acceptable.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Nathan, I'm glad he brought that up. Thank you, Adam. One might think or expect that this line of thinking that you had prior to Adam presenting is coming from any side of the argument that's opposite of heliocentrism. But as documented from a variety of sources, they're the ones saying that when you do astronavigation using the sextant, you have to assume the Earth is stationary and that it's the stars turning. Now, that's troublesome because that's our argument.
Yeah.
And it's their side, and it's their side saying that's the way it works. That's the only way it could only work.
Yeah, work's an interesting word in this respect because when they say work, they often mean mathematics, not doing anything. In this regard, moving physically around on the plane we dwell atop is work. And when it comes to those functions of getting around and not dying as a result, you've got to have something that works. And to make it work, they must assume that we haven't got a moving Earth. We've got stars that move their position over the terrain, exactly as we observe it. Further to that, they need straight lines and baselines along them to the GP position of the star where it is over the location of the land, so you can triangulate that star. Ergo, Earth is flat. Any more, or can we move on in housekeeping?
Just a summary that this is what I see as I go through the Nautical Almanac, not all by itself, but some of the summaries or descriptions in it. But mainly, if you get Bowditch's work on, which is called the American Practical Navigator, which is a must if you're going to be at sea, or any other of the 10 or 15 books I have on the subject when I started studying it, that's where the contradictions appear within the group of people who are saying we live on a sphere and you need to use spherical trigonometry and you got to have the PZX triangle from the celestial sphere land exactly in, it's a curved triangle, by the way, on the terrestrial sphere. And that's how you figure it out. And you're reading all this and you're saying, oh, okay, so they actually believe the earth is curved. And then next thing you know, you read it says, well, guess what? You need straight lines. You need a vertex. You need a 90 degree. You need a radius of a circle of equal altitude. And furthermore, you got to pretend the earth's not moving for this thing to work. Give me a break.
Yeah, there's no getting away from the physical reality we actually experience. And when it comes to, like I say, experienced navigators, they're not navigating over spherical surfaces. They're triangulating with a flat plane and getting where they're going without issue, and have done for a very long time. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Shocking. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
I was on mute, but I can respond to both with a sentence. You're going to need R for that. So no.
Any evidence of R, as they're going to need it for so many different things? Are they carrying on Bob's vein of there is no R, or no R is required, or circles don't have an R? Has anybody sort of picked up the baton from him and gone, yeah, of course? Anybody at all?
I hope not. That would, well, I mean, if they do, that's going to be such an embarrassment for them. I mean, that was a debacle what Bob tried to do. But, you know, it's a presupposition. It doesn't exist, only in the mind. So Adam is right. You're going to need R for it, and you ain't got it in reality. So you got to make it up in your mind.
Not only that, like the assumption they made when they claimed or they believed they were measuring it, if it's got contrary evidence to that, then I don't even know if it can be considered a belief at that point. It's more of a delusion.
Yeah, that's what QE says all the time. Normally with a high-pitched, exasperated voice because it's in the middle of some delusional statement that they've made. But yeah, I agree. That is how it comes across. They are delusional. If they're here, and if they're in the normie realm, at the top of the hill, as I metaphorically describe it, having not been pushed down or rolled down of their own accord or accidentally come across that's forced them to trip down the hill, right? Those people aren't delusional. They live on a sphere because that is how it is, and there's nothing to suggest otherwise. Now, not one of you will be able to say you weren't in that position at one point in your life. pauses for dramatic effect, waiting for somebody to say, "Nah, I didn't live in blissful ignorance that we weren't on a sphere. Of course I knew." Chocolate's not here, is he? Thank God. That would have ruined it.
Well, I was not to say that I ever thought that we potentially didn't live on a sphere, but I was brought up from birth a geocentrist, at least. So I was brought up never to believe in gravity. Told it is complete bunk, no scientific validation for it. The fact that the so-called fact that the Earth was moving, completely rubbish again. But then that was very weird going to school.
Crack. You said this the other day, and I think that's credit to your parents. But how come they weren't flat earthers? Because once you've made that kind of leap, that for us, the rest kind of follows, doesn't it? So where did they get their R? Because they've poo-pooed G to you. How did they keep an R in their head?
Well, the way it was just explained to me was that, that obviously I'm going to too much detail, but it was just more explained to me in this sense. It was never like you're on a globe. It was more all of this stuff is conjecture at best. There's no way of proving any of it. And gravity, no way of proving it. Don't take it as fact, son. Don't take any of this as fact because all of it is conjecture at best. There's no validation for any of it, basically. And you are at the center of the universe and you do matter. That was how I was raised.
So they're confirming geocentric, but that doesn't necessarily, there's no weight in there for a ball. It's just, you're talking about actually our position with regards to the luminaries.
Exactly that, yeah. But it wasn't neither said by my father or my mother either that, we definitely live on a globe, right? That was never a claim they made. But it was confusing for me going into school. 100%. I went into school thinking gravity doesn't exist, but we live on a ball. So obviously all of those questions came up for me straight away, like why are we not falling off said ball, etc., etc., etc. And then obviously, as we spoke the other day, those sorts of questions being asked to science teachers about scales of weight versus centrifugal versus gravity, if that's what makes up my weight, which I don't even know if that's the current rhetoric, but just a confusing position for a young lad to sort of be in, but one that I'm glad I was, because I'm not exactly invested in any way, shape, or form in the globe. Never was. It was very easy for me to shake any form of cognitive dissonance that may have occurred if that hadn't been the case.
That also explains when you first, that the mass family migration to flat Earth as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Most of us, that does not happen with anyone else in your family, spouses included. You know what I mean? But that makes a lot more sense as to why there's lots of O's around.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So it's pretty much everyone in my family is a flat earther. It was just natural. Going back to seeing Samuel Rowbotham's books sort of posted in certain places before Eric the Bay's sort of videos were being made. And then, around that time it was just, I'd say very quickly that everyone was like, all right, it's flat. Oh yeah, that makes complete sense. We've observed that our whole lives. We've observed Lundy Island off the coast, southwest coast of England, 19.7 miles away. Every day, look at the mathematics. This makes no sense. Doesn't comport to the size of the ball. It was a very quick and logical leap for every one of us to make. And then me being the one who's a bit more introspective into all this stuff, I pretty much very quickly started to explain it to people in a more scientific fashion in my family to validate it further, because I didn't want them just going out looking crazy.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
If you want to assume it's physical, you'll need R for that.
Right on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Come on, Crack, you got to answer that one.
Need what, sorry?
Definitely no. So,
you were brought up to know that. that's what you just said. So
Definitely not.
Be nice to have Sleeping Warrior on to tell us what he's up to at the moment in his world of non-gravity, because he's kind of an expert in it as far as I'm concerned. He knows far more about I. The only person comparable would probably be Arwin. So be nice to know what he's getting up to. He doesn't often join anymore. I know he's got a lot on. I do keep up with him daily. He probably, I'll just say it now, he knows this is almost like a call out for him. There we go. We'll see. Well, he's been telling me stuff that's exciting, and I can't just divulge it on the show, but Anthony's always got exciting stuff going on, and I crave him telling my audience. And it's not my position to tell my audience Anthony's stuff. It's his. So if he was here, he'd be doing that. I'm sure he's just not.
I'll bribe him, Nate. I'm only going to finish reading that ridiculously long email that you sent me, Nathan, if you do come on, Tony.
I've read both of them. There's two. There's two. Have you read the second one?
I've read the bit from the department. I'm halfway through.
Too many words. Let's just talk about this after the show. Too many words. We don't know what he wants to divulge in. I haven't spoken to him about that. I've just been reading the very long interactions he's been having. This is a live show. We're doing in talk. This is very, very unprofessional. Let's move on with housekeeping. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Oh, but we got attention.
No, not at all. I've been looking as well. I've actually been looking, and again, no.
If you're a heliocentrist in those fields and you want to put forth a hypothesis, you would require R for that.
I love it. You get around all the disclaimers and then drop it in. Very good. Can you repeat it? Hopefully no one will interrupt you. Just say that again with the disclaimers.
If you're a heliocentrist in those fields and you wish to put forth a hypothesis, you would require R for that.
That's correct. An astrophysicist who wants to suppose a hypothesis in a heliocentric paradigm will require R. Correct. A lot of disclaimers. The reason those dropped in if you're a new audience member is because almost all of the housekeeping questions can just be answered with one answer. You'll need R for that is the answer to most of them. But there are a couple of exceptions, and this is one of them. But John was father of a stolen child, refracted curvature. I'll get there in the end. Was determined to drop this in with that answer. You'll need R for that, but it does require a couple of steps to get there. Maybe just one, but you know what I mean. It needs a little bit of a disclaimer, is what I'm saying. But kudos. Last but by no means least, is there any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Absolutely not.
There's a bit going off in chat with Professor Phil at the moment and Tony, and I'm just responding to Phil now. So I'll just read his statement. Sleeping Warrior, at 38 kilometers, the pressure is only 0.007 psi. I thought, oh, that's just, okay, lovely. But what are we comparing that to? The 10 to the minus 17 torr, aren't we, of space? So we're talking in different units. So I thought I'd just convert them. And according to Google, it's that tiny little PSI value is actually equal to 0.36 torr, which is what? 10 to the minus 17. So 16 orders of magnitude, still greater than the supposed vacuum. So compared to the vacuum of space, that is one pressurized system still. Professor Phil.
I love it. I'd never done the maths, or had I ever considered, why is it that when they tell me how many PSI there is and then label it a vacuum, is it that it's in a different value to the torr claim, 10 to the minus 17 thereof, in the sky vacuum out of space? Why is that? I've never even considered it. But there we go. With a conversion, we've got 16 orders of magnitude less in the observable nature of the gas pressure we do experience. Yeah, if the sky was a vacuum, that would be 10 to the minus 17 torr. Maybe you can convert that into a PSI value for me.
Who's that?
Perfect. I love having a mathematician on the show. Most people are aware I'm not exactly very maths orientated. People catch me out with maths questions and then make endless videos about them to straw man the argument by ad hominem. But that doesn't fuss me, especially when you got someone like Adam. It's like, can you do this? I wasn't expecting you to say, yeah, I'll be back in a minute.
I've been waiting for someone to give us a Tor value for like 0.01 PSI, because 0.01 PSI sounds very, very close to zero, right? So that's why they talk about it like that. But when you convert it to a Tor value and then compare that to 10 to the minus 17, then you see the difference.
Oh, I got a good answer for this one.
I'd like afterwards.
It's basically 1.93 or 2 to the minus 19 PSI.
It's more zeros.
Yeah.
10 to the minus 19 in PSI.
Yeah, next to 0.007. Yeah, so it's just still the same orders of magnitude, 16, 17 orders of magnitude, you say. Just the units are funkier, so it makes it look less significant, the difference, doesn't it?
Oh, the tangled web we weave. Go ahead, crack villain.
It's sort of kind of like when you compare the end points of potency in chemistry of, let's say, a drug, for instance, right? You have the end points of potency. So the last 2% of the potency, let's say, of any form of drug, pharmacologically speaking, and what that would cause for the bioavailability and its absorption into the blood, versus, right, when converted over into, vacuums and, essentially the way they like to play it, so that they change the unit in order that we don't see the magnitude of what they're actually showing. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like those last points of magnitude are massive, and they make a huge difference when you work out the numbers, as Adam just did. It's like if you have 70% pure, methylphenidate versus 99% pure methylphenidate. The last sort of 5% of point on the 99% pure are equal to more than if it was 85% pure on the other of the methylphenidate, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, a way of jumbling the numbers. Shell game, as Arwen likes to call it. Go ahead, John.
Just an analogy.
Hold on one sec, crack villain. Go ahead, refracted curvature.
Oh, I was going to say for this, there's an R answer for this one, but it would be, even if you had R, you still couldn't have gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, the way they get their V would require R, though, wouldn't it? Because it's the difference between the Kármán line and the ground level on a sphere. So to calculate their V, if they're going to do one without a container, they still need R for it. Is that where you're driving at? So you're saying you couldn't do it anyway because you haven't got a container, but you'd still need R to not do it, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, there's...
That's right, Nathan. You still, even with R, you still could not do it, even with R.
You're going to need R to blag that you can do that, almost.
Yeah, you're going to need R to trick people into believing you could, that it's possible, yeah. That'd probably be as close as I would go with it.
Professor Phil's doing just exactly what you described, Darwin describes it as a shell game. So the difference between the ground and 10 to the minus 17 Tor is 14.7 PSI or 760 Tor. Mathematically, that's correct, but it ignores what we're talking about, Phil, which are the orders of magnitude. Okay, that's the issue, Phil. I don't know if you can comprehend that, really a bit much, because the way you try to summarize it is that's half the pressure needed for a car tire. Don't think you're grasping what we're talking about, Phil, but
I say many a true word spoken in jest. So shout out to Godzilla37. He says, the year is 2043. Nathan slowly raises his eyes while his nurse pushes his wheelchair closer to the mic. Any evidence of the R value? Thank you very much indeed.
Dying breath in your fucking hospital bed.
Indeed. Well, he's
That's
not wrong,
pushback
though, because
insane,
I picked the subject has longevity. As far as I could ascertain, The current paradigm is globe. The reality is flat. That's not going to go away in a hurry. If it changes one way or the other, there'll still be a need for my show. So I seem, unless I'm
it will
censored
never
out of
change. The thing
existence.
is,
that
we
is.
live in the moment, and we live in this moment, and you look at this moment, and what you see is no curvature anywhere, or you've experienced it when you've gone up in a plane. You've seen birds go over the horizon, but you haven't seen it when you go up in a plane, and you can't see it in a high altitude balloon. It's ridiculous.
Easy
unless
now,
you've compressed
Tiger.
images,
Whoa. Yeah, check him out
It's
with
all
his
crazy.
chainsaw, wielding that chainsaw. What can't you see from altitude?
Is that the Rock in?
It is.
No,
The
I'm just
Rock.
saying it's no curvature,
Yeah.
Nathan. I'm saying
The
you
tattoos
can't
didn't
see
match
any
at all,
curvature. We
did
don't
they,
experience
Adam?
none in this
It
moment.
wasn't
So
even
you're saying
close,
when you're
right?
deathbed when you're older,
He's in the
it's
screen
sort of
next
changes.
to
But
you.
it will never change because we've already identified the moment. The moment is there is no curvature, and that moment will never change.
Yeah. What I was driving at, Tommy, was for a lot of flat earthers, there's a misapprehension about what you will or will not see at altitude, not necessarily linking it to the black swan. I'll explain if you'll bear with me. So shout out to who was it that originally did this? I think it was Righteous Force that highlighted this for me originally. So at the ground level, you appreciate that you can't have a geometric limitation beyond where it should physically be. That's the black swan argument, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just say yeah. Perfect. Why would that be any different at altitude? It's the same horizon.
They say because you have to see a substantial amount of the ball surface area to distinguish the curvature with the naked eye in
What's the
ratio to
yeah,
what it can.
yeah, I
what it
got
can.
you. I got you. What's the curvature? What are you looking
The
at?
curvature is 3 miles per square inch.
No.
Something like
What
that.
is it you're looking at? You're in your plane. You're looking at quote unquote curvature. Doesn't matter if it's according to them or you. What are you looking at? What is it that's in your view that you could describe? to
3
me?
inches per mile squared from due to the observer's height in feet. That's what I'm looking at, basically, the curvature over the Earth. Apparently.
And what does that look like? Describe it to
It
me.
looks flat and motionless, and everything behaves as if it was in a contained system that had no deviation, no rotation.
You're not
of the
picking up
surface
what
of
I'm
the
putting
Earth.
down, Tommy. Okay.
Yep.
Don't flail. Just listen.
I'm just saying,
Don't flail. Just listen.
Reality.
Just listen. Right. The horizon is what you're saying won't curve at altitude, right?
No, it doesn't curve at altitude now.
But it's the horizon that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The horizon's not Earth curve, Tommy. We've debunked it with the black swan. It doesn't
Yeah, I
make
know
any
it's
difference
not.
how.
But what I'm saying is what they're. I'm talking about what they're meant to believe and what they're supposed to. They're supposed to see that. I don't see that. But we're saying what would never change, Nathan, is what we experience. Like even if you're in your deathbed, you're saying unless somehow the Earth starts curving and I start seeing curvature, there's no way that will ever change because we live in this moment. We've identified this very moment we live in, and we look out the window and we don't see any curvature. We don't experience any movement with the plane's deviation. So your senses tell you live in that moment, and that moment is truth. That truthful moment will never change. Billions of years, quadrillions of billions of years will never change.
Sure, I get
That's
you.
what we experience in that
I think
moment.
you're
thank you.
missing it.
Okay, I get
No,
it.
he's attacking what Nathan said. I pricked my ears up. Nathan said, and if that was to change, then I'd still have a show. And I think that's what
Yes,
The
that's what you
Rock
said.
is cooking.
I want to move on from that. Thank you, Adam. But the point I'm trying to get across to you is that when you say I don't see Earth curvature, yeah, well, the reason people can still assert that they do is because of a lack of appreciation that the horizon isn't Earth curvature.
And apparently, you can't see the Earth curvature unless you could see basically the whole of America. A big continent, that sort of altitude, which is like nearly 300 miles up. And apparently,
no,
even
now
that 300
you're gonna
miles
get
up,
it.
Hold on.
that wouldn't be
Just
enough.
1 second. Go ahead.
The numbers
Was that
are all
Neil?
over the place.
Hold on. Just 1 second. Was that Neil trying to get a word in from G+?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
not Earth curve. You're never going to see Earth curve. The horizon is not Earth curve.
But it's supposed to
It's
be
not
the
gonna be Earth
leading
curve.
edge of a sphere, right?
This is the point. When you say I can see something from altitude or I can't see something from altitude, well, there's a slight discrepancy in the wording, and that's what I'm trying to get to the nub of. Why is it that someone like Tommy can say, I don't see Earth curve from high altitude, and then rattle off a whole load of reasons that if you're on the globe, just at the top of the hill, you've come across this show and you go, what the hell's he babbling about? I go up in a plane and I do see Earth curve. Now, the confusion comes because what are you actually talking about? Well, you're both talking about the horizon. Well, the horizon is an Earth curve. We've debunked it with the black swan. If the horizon was a physical geometric limitation to our view, i.e. the curve of the Earth, it would be at no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The observer's height in feet doesn't make any difference if that's 30,000 feet. It's the same exact principle. The horizon claimed to be Earth curve. My God. My God. My God. Important. Your phraseology will leave you in an argument that you don't understand with somebody that's saying that they can see it. Because it doesn't clarify what's being discussed. What are you talking about, Mr. I can see the horizon from 30,000 feet? Well, it's the curve of the Earth that I see. Well, what is that? Well, it's the curve at 8 inches per mile squared, which is what you said you couldn't see. But you're still talking at cross purposes. The point being that once you clarify what we're talking about, we can or cannot see. That's the horizon. And you go, oh, so you, on the globe side, think the horizon is an Earth curve edge. It isn't. We've debunked it. End of argument.
But when you're talking to a flat earther about it, or somebody that already knows that it's not the Earth curve, that's why they're going to sound crazy to somebody that already believes that they're looking at Earth curve, because we've already looked into the fact that it's not. So we're not looking at it that way. That's why, hence why I said, when I'm at altitude, I don't see, we experience in this moment no curvature, no see no seeing on or detect any sort of behaviour that we're apparently living in. Gases are not acting the same way. They're not, they say vacuums don't suck, but gases press, and the amount of available air for that to escape to, and the amount of time that it's had to for entropy to increase, just shows that it's a contained system, some sort of cycle. If you don't see it, if you don't understand the massive balance in the world and how it all works, then what can I say to you? You've got a lot of research to do. So it's unfortunate. I don't entertain people that think the things I'm saying now are crazy. They're either need to just educate themselves. If they're interested in why they want to know, I'd give more reasons why. But yeah, from that standpoint, that's probably why it sounds like it wouldn't convince somebody that thinks they're looking at curvature. But people like that are still looking at that as curvature, I've given up on them. I've given up on them. If they're still at that stage by now, there's so much they need to unlearn.
Sure, but it's a useful phrase to know. The horizon is an Earth curve.
The horizon isn't Earth. The horizon is an Earth curve. There you go.
Exactly. That single statement debunks basically heliocentrism.
I know it does. And that's why they don't like it, and that's why they don't answer gas pressure without a container. It's bizarre. Like, it's really bizarre, but it's the world we live in now. People follow their education till it doesn't follow. Their own education tells them that their education's wrong. Their own education, their own laws within their education, like their gas laws and all that volume. You need a space area. If you've got like an infinite amount of space, it's just like all the mathematics just fall apart. It's all theoretical. Like, it's just bullshit. You can just theoretically talk about anything. You can still get like
Point
patterns.
is, if we were on a sphere, the horizon would be Earth curve, wouldn't it?
Well, not necessarily
the point.
No, yes and no. That's how it's asserted. So yes, that's how it's described in the Earth curve math. So yes, but no, because in reality, if we were on a ball, we would potentially have a geometric limitation to our view. That would go without saying. It couldn't not be there. But we may also have the optical limitation to our view. Now, that used to be described by Anthony as the double dip, i.e. they're only taking one of them into account because it's a perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, i.e. the optical horizon, which we absolutely would still experience. I'll give you an example. If you hold up a beach ball in front of you, you've got a geometric horizon and the optical limitation to your view if you're at the beach. Well, you'd have the same thing going on if you were on a ball. You'd have a geometric limitation to your view where the ball fell away at 8 inches per mile squared and an optical limitation.
The black swan describes it, doesn't it? Yeah. So the geometric horizon, the horizon could be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer height. So that's going to be your geometric physical limitation. Now, the horizon could. This is all on a ball. If that's the furthest the furthest it could be. Now, because of the optical atmospheric effects, then it could render less than that, but it can never render more than that. Yeah, because there is that physical thing that fits the description of the horizon as well as it being the optical. If you do have a physical thing, it is actually going to fulfill the criteria of what a horizon is defined as. So it can, through the black swan, it can be no more than a certain amount, but it can be less if you lived on a ball. It can be more obvious.
Can I comment something with Tommy?
Feel free.
Tommy,
Yeah,
I've
what's
been
up? What's
watching
up?
the progress. Gary, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, man?
I'm glad you're taking the gloves off, and so to speak.
No.
But following the Black Swan since its inception and listening to all the callers and anti-flat earthers try to make fun of it or overcome the logic of it, when they look at the horizon, again, this is just my perspective after 21 months, I guess. When they look at the horizon, it doesn't need to curve in their eyesight for them to say it's Earth curve. They've been programmed to think that the horizon is Earth curve, but it's not a curve. Okay, that's number one.
Yep.
Number two, the black swan, as Adam said, 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, puts a geometric limitation as to where that should be. And that is what the black swan has done to them. It's destroyed them. Because if we are on a sphere, you're gonna have the physicality have markers. And so when they look at the horizon, it doesn't have to look curved for them to say, I live on the ball and the horizon is Earth curve. Because they think the curve starts
Listen,
beyond.
I know, bro. Listen, I know that they're saying here the whole landscape can all bend over the Earth's flat curved surface, appearing to be flat because of the way that refraction works. I mean, I've heard some bizarre shit, man. Like I'm saying, so you're saying everything I can see that the entire scenery is refracting over the sea. That's supposed to be curving away. He goes, yeah. So I said, what you're saying is the reason it looks flat is because it's curving. He goes, yeah. And I just thought these people have lost their soul. Like, I can't be honest, I can't communicate with that much retardation. Too much retardation for me. That's all I know. That's all I fucking know. They're saying the entire fucking scenery is refracting over the sea, appearing, and that's why it appears to be flat, even though it's curving. It's just, how can you argue with someone who says that? How can you?
Well,
How
you
can you have a
take- let me
conversation?
Let me answer
You-
that. That's the primary response to the Black Swan argument, and it's going to get a response. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tenderman. Well, if the horizon's refracted, it's not geometric. Therefore, you can't derive an R value from it, as Al-Biruni is claimed to do after measuring the height of a mountain on a flat plane with basic trig, and then deriving an R value by way of a tangent point to a dip angle measurement at his horizon, assumed to be the physical geometric limitation of a sphere. If it's refracted, it cannot be, by definition, is not geometric. Upon stating that the horizon is refracted, that implodes the globe model for several reasons that we're currently going over with people like Bob the Science Guy. Okay, so we'll take their position as read, Tommy. It's all refracted. We've always got atmosphere. So how do you get a straight line when looking through the lens of a sextant? Answer: you don't.
Break it down. Like Nathan's breaking down the technicalities a bit. Like that's where I just realised Nathan's destroyed it. Like he's done it. Like just allow it. Like nobody's beating Nathan. He's been doing it every day, back to back, destroying it, picking it apart, and playing with it, and absolutely just running circles around. And it's still an open platform for them to come in and just defend it and hear one good argument. Instead, all I ever hear is just slander about him. All I hear is this is that, this is that. What about his arguments though? What about his arguments though? What about his arguments though? What
We
about his
talked about this in
arguments?
the pre-show, Tommy. So in the pre-show, Crackvillain is obviously the newbie. He's like getting a lesson in mic discipline and keeping away from his mic, not caught implosives and all those sorts of things. And I said, this is a testament to the times. Are we sat around the campfire talking about our next move in the argument that we've currently got going on with the globe believers that's devastating to us? No. No, I'm focused on getting buttery smooth sound. Because what else have I got to worry about? I just need to improve it by that extra 2%. It's really bugging me. Is it bugging me that there's some devastating globe argument? No, definitely not.
You know it curves because it looks so
I wanted to go back to something that Temp said very quickly. I just wanted to back him up on the psychology of them just basically being pre-programmed to believe that effectively where the horizon is where effectively where there is Earth curve, right? And it's true and it shows, because if it wasn't a pre-programmed thought to them, then when they see a boat, let's say, go away from them, right? We'll think of it this way: if they were to see a boat disappear from them, right, bottom up, right, but just before the point of them disappearing bottom up, right, and then the boat is to rotate, okay, to turn, let's say 90 degrees, right, either left or right, okay, and then skate along the horizon, right, where the sky appears to meet the ground. What is it that they would notice? What would they notice, Tommy? What they would notice is that any movement of any distance greater than that of it's going away from them, where it would start to disappear bottom up, they would notice that it's not disappearing even 2 miles as it travels and skates along the horizon. Remember, the ball is curving in all directions. So this is how we know they're pre-programmed to think that this is Earth curve, and not that it's something that they have really thought about whatsoever. Just to back up what Tenth was saying, because effectively, what would they see? They would see this. They would see a boat. They would see it go 2 miles along the horizon and think, "Wait a minute, how can anything travel 2 miles along a horizon?" Right? Think about it.
No, it's the same as this. Look, in every scenario where you expect to see curvature or rotation, or when you get these questions where you really push it to the limit, they've always got this like, "Oh, did you know about this counter refraction and interjection refraction?" It's just like never fucking ends, man. Like they've got this reason or this excuse for everything. I mean, even the moon that supposedly is going away from us 1 inch per year, but yet mass attracts mass. But they're saying that we know that there's moon rock on the Earth because that's how we know it was created some sort of collision. But then if the moon was so close to the Earth at one point because it's actually moving away, so obviously therefore it moves an inch. So if it's billions and billions of years ago, 2-3 billion years ago, how many inches is that closer? And then you're telling me even then the gravitational effect was not having a mass attracting mass effect. It's still going out in orbital fucking mechanics. You're saying that for some reason that these two large bodies that have mass are not attracted to each other for some reason, even though they were created right next to each other, and now they'll go drifting apart.
Hey,
And
Tommy.
then you're saying it's
Tommy,
moving the
slow-
ocean, and it's like doing all these things. It's just crazy, man.
Slow down.
Tommy,
And they're saying it's
Just
moving the
summarize
ocean, and
it.
basically
Hold
there's
on,
like a
hold
little
on, hold on,
ripple
Tommy.
effect that gives them free
Tommy,
energy. Because
Tommy,
basically
just
we know
one
you
sec.
can't-
Tommy,
energy we cannot
Tommy,
go
you've got
destroy
verbal
things, so
diarrhea.
on.
Tenth's really trying to get a word in. Go ahead, Tenth.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tommy, it's a lot easier than that. Nathan has done it many times, as well as others on the panel. The minute any of them says refraction, it's over. And the reason it's over is because they could have never obtained any of the information that they're using to validate the globe if there was refraction.
Okay, I've got a super chat from Retro Bill. He says, Nathan, I wondered if 10th Man might summarize the sextant argument in a sentence or two, assuming one is presenting it to a newbie.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that, but can we finish the thought here?
Yeah, I was just going to chip on that, and he's probably shopping, but it's summarized as the Irwinian Paradox, isn't it? So.
Yes, it is.
So Tommy, let's role play. I'm going to be the baller. You're going to be Tommy, the flat earther.
All right. Oh, okay.
And you're going to, and we're talking about Earth curvature.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
all right.
Tommy. It's refraction. That's why.
So the reason I can see the black swan is because it's refracting over the horizon where it should be curving away from us from obstruction from the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, refraction. I mean, are you denying?
So can I put a heater on it? Can I put a heater on the side of a corner and see around corners as well?
Tommy, make it simpler.
Does it only have a vertical and a right? Does this refraction only have a vertical and horizontal?
Right,
effect
Tommy,
on the light
wait there. Stop a
across
second.
through it? Or can I use it for
Wait there, Tommy.
horizontal and looking around corners? Because
Tommy,
basically you're
what's
saying
the
I can see
black-
over
Tommy,
a
take a
hump,
break.
right?
Tommy,
It's refracting
chill.
over there.
Tommy, you're leaving a gap. Somebody's going to start talking. You just got to let them.
Go on.
Go ahead, 10th.
Oh, sorry.
Tommy, let's take a break from the exercise we're having right now. What is the black swan argument between you and me, two flat earthers? What is the black swan argument?
I think the black swan argument tests the mathematics that have been given by NASA and basically consensus to give you an accurate way to mathematically find out the horizon to the basically the R value where the Earth curves away, basically Earth curvature where it's expected to go away from you at a certain mile per distance in all directions, being on the surface of the Earth.
Close enough.
So basically, what they've done is they've
Yeah,
tried to test that actual
Okay,
number.
okay, it's close enough. You're saying it's giving you where the Earth curve claims to be,
Yes,
anti-punking it.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
But Earth curve is the horizon. Go ahead, 10th.
All right, so if you just go to the slide QE is provided for everyone, just memorize that. It can be no further than what? Earth curve can be no further than.
Yeah, that's the numbers I've got. Yeah,
Ten-
I've gone
ten-
over this, but I don't remember it off by heart. Like I'm not a preacher on it. Like I know I've been through it all. So I've heard both sides of the argument. I've gone through your guys' papers. I've gone through what you guys are saying. I've presented it to the Grovers. They've just gone. Oh,
I know
you
what-
just got that.
that was
Oh, you
that was exceedingly complicated. 10th asked the question, Tommy. I'd instead of trying to maybe you've got a lot of knowledge. You don't need it here. Yeah, you don't need to expound the knowledge. He asked you refraction. Yeah, he said to you refraction. So you've only got to say what sort of refraction. Use QE's tips, make them speak. Yeah, and they'll hang themselves. So 10th, what sort of refraction are you talking?
Terrestrial.
Terrestrial refraction. Do you want to pick it up from there, Tommy?
Yeah, let's go.
He might not understand the argument, and we've only got 3 minutes of live show left, so I'm just going to lay it out. Tommy, listen up.
Yeah.
He's laying out that their refraction is terrestrial refraction. Now, terrestrial refraction, if you hear the name, otherwise known as, or sometimes called, standard refraction or atmospheric refraction. If you hear any of those terms, they all mean the same thing. Now, in standard form, or standard refraction, that's terrestrial refraction or atmospheric refraction, is 7/6 of the radius value. Now, if you've refracted the horizon, it's no longer a tool to get R, and they're claiming it's refracted with R, Tommy. So their refraction needs R, and they haven't got it if the horizon's refracted.
They've got to
Well
slip
said.
it in somewhere.
Something
No, they've got to slip it in somewhere. No, that's what they do. You know, and then they say that unless you can parrot back all the maths, then you can't really say these people are wrong. But at the end of the day,
No,
like
no, that's
at
what
the
we're
end of the day,
saying.
like, I think there's some good concepts that people have put together.
Well,
and
I'm going
they're
to ask
valid
Adam, Tommy.
points.
I'm just going to ask Adam to lay out the Irwinian Paradox for the audience or you.
Just in time.
Oh, he is back in time for it. Perfect. Well, maybe Arwin should do it. But the point, I won't
was
do it. I'll
summoned.
let Arwin do it. But the point I'm saying, Tommy, you see, you've only asked one question. What type of refraction? They have to answer terrestrial. That then takes them to R. Now you've got them by the short and curlies, mate, because you have them in the Irwinian Paradox. And Arwin, take it away.
Oh, I need to explain it?
Ideally, yes. I know you've only just got back, but if you can just lay out what the Irwinian Paradox actually is in terms of getting an R from a refracted horizon that's derivative of R. Go ahead.
Yes. It's kind of mathematical, really, in nature, because terrestrial refraction is a formula that suggests that light is bending at a very specific rate, and that rate, that arc, is dependent on the very radius of Earth for its calculations. The R value is within the formula they apply if they're actually going to physically calculate it and not just talk about it. And the problem is that in order to establish the R value, to really make it real, to have proof of it through physical measurement, you have to actually measure the horizon geometry. You have to figure out the geometry of Earth. And yeah, if the horizon would be bending because of this terrestrial refraction, then you could never establish that geometry because things are not where you see them. And so you run into a paradox. If you apply terrestrial refraction, then you don't have the radius that is integral to the formula in order to apply terrestrial refraction.
Right.
That's
You
the
can't
Irwinian
use R to refract the horizon with R, because then you can't measure R. So you can't get R if the horizon's refracted. And if it's refracted with R, you can't get R to refract it with. It goes round and round because it's a paradox, labelled appropriately as a paradox by Irwin, and therefore got his namesake. So it's the Irwinian Paradox. You can't refract the horizon with R because you derived the R value from the physical geometric horizon. And if it's refracted, it's not geometric, so you can't get an R value to refract it with. I'm going to keep this live show open just for a little bit because we don't often on the show get to see just Irwin. Most of the time, as much as I hate, love and hate to say it, we get Baldwin. And what you've just heard is a good example of what you'll get on Irwin's show on the early bird. So Irwin is on fire when he's on his own show and he's just doing his thing as a flat earther, which he is. But most of the time on this show, you'll see Irwin in a slightly different light because he kind of plays that role. He's just ended up being in it. But how concise and detailed Irwin was with the Irwinian Paradox, not just because it's his and it's his namesake. That's true of anything he talks about on Flat Earth Early Bird. So go and subscribe to Irwin and check out his show because he's brilliant and I can't really give him any better a plug, and it's a nice opportunity to do that when he's just been himself giving his explanation as he does on his own show. So thank you for that, Irwin. Also, because it was paid for, I want 10th if he's around. You're still there, 10th?
Yeah, I'm here.
Earlier on in the show we said, can we sort of segue away from a request by Super Chat to detail in a couple of sentences, if you would consider you were talking to a newbie, how you detail the sextant argument. Is there any chance you can do that just while we've got this live show still running? I'll keep it open just to do it.
Yeah, I'll do it for $10. Of course I'll do it.
Right, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both. No, go ahead, go on.
You want me to do it now?
Yes, please, if you'd be so kind.
Okay.
Do it live.
Just for clarity, hold on, before we do, you're not getting $10 for this.
I know.
I was
that.
going
I'm
to
saying
explain
it-
about the the heater on the corner. That's what I mean. He said if I was talking to a normal glober, what would I say to them? So I'd say to them, can I bend light by seeing around corners by putting a heater at the corner? Because you're saying heat, atmospheric conditions are bending things around obstructed view. So I was going to test their knowledge and whether I can create an atmospheric condition behind an obstructed surface and see around it due to pushing the light around it to work horizontally as well as vertically. Because basically you're saying the whole atmosphere, terrestrial refraction, or however you want to categorize it, that's bending over the obstruction of the Earth because of the light. So it's all refracting. So there's obviously atmospheric conditions you can create to get that effect. So I'm saying to them, can I emulate that by seeing around corners?
No.
Obviously brings
I
them
know
to
you
the
are.
conclusion you can't.
No. What you're doing then is you're buying into their argument. You've already begged the question then. I've got to keep... We'll get back to you 10th. I'm sorry. No, because then you're into... So light can bend at a rate of R then around corners. You've missed the point.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
That's
stop.
what I'm saying.
Tom, I know, Tommy,
Tommy,
I know what you're saying. You don't have to keep telling me through me that you're telling me that when I understand it, and I understood it the first time he said it. Yeah, you're saying, I just asked them if they can see around corners with their refraction. Yeah, their refraction, Tommy, you're not picking up the subtle hint to shut up. So now I've got to actually say it on a live show. Please shut up while I'm talking. Don't just babble straight through me. It's irritating. Thank you. So, yes, I understand your argument. You ask them when you just fall into their trap of begging the question that light is refracted at the rate of R. If light is refracted through sphere-shaped air, that's atmosphere, then they'll need R to claim that. Number one, to claim there's sphere-shaped air, atmosphere that the light's bending through, that needs R. But the very rate mathematically that they're going to claim in rebuttal, if they throw the argument straight back at you, yes, light can bend around the corner of this building you're describing, and it will do so at a rate that is based on R.
I see
Now-
what you mean. So let's just go back.
No,
So
Tommy, I haven't
the
fucking
ultimate question-
finished.
Yeah, I get you now. I get what
You don't, because I haven't finished. What's my next sentence then, clairvoyant Tommy? You can't stop interrupting when I'm trying to
Go
educate
to the
you.
second point. If you crush them right at the very get-go at the gates, whereas they don't even get away with R in the first place before you even get down that road.
Right, if you're measuring an R value, you need it to be a geometric derivation. You need to measure geometry if you're measuring R. And if it's refracted, it isn't geometric. So therefore, when they say it's refracted, they first must have acquired a geometric R value. And they do that with the horizon. The very thing they're telling you that's refracted in the argument is the thing they need to be geometric to get the R to refract it.
So your point is to make sure you stick on R because that's the real argument.
Yeah, they need R.
No point.
Exactly. They
Yeah,
need
okay,
R,
yeah,
and they can't get it if the horizon's refracted.
Exactly, yeah. So I shouldn't even go down to this road and to give and beg the question like you said, yeah. That's why you're lecturing me on it now. I see what you're doing now. I hear what you're going.
Do you know what their initial claim was? Do you know what the initial claim that got this entire globe belief started?
Well,
ahead.
I know that everything was all in, flat and the water's above and all that.
No. Just tell us, John.
It's that you can measure a dip angle to the horizon and derive geometry to the Earth from it, and that you could draw a tangent to that horizon to get your radius.
Right, boats going over the horizon. That's where it starts. That's where the myth starts.
Yeah, the over the horizon bit being over the geometric limitation that they derive R from. So what John's saying is, the claim is that we can get Earth geometry. We can measure it. That's the claim. Well, if it's refracted, you can't measure it. And that's where the claim starts. That they can measure its geometry? No, you can't. You're saying it's refracted. Paradoxically, with the R value, you can no longer measure. Okay, right. I'm gonna draw a line under it. Right, 10th. We're still live, and I still do want that $10 because times are hard, right? Please smash the PayPal link. Support this channel. It's been a tough month. But in all seriousness,
4 more hours.
No, not 4 more. I thought this live show would stop working. I had internet issues before we started this. We're now running at 8 minutes over, and I still haven't got 10th to do his presentation that someone paid for. Ugh. Right, 10th, are you there?
I'm here. Retro Bill says $10 sextant. Here we go. Sextant is an angle measuring device. It can never work off of a curved surface.
That is literally it. So perfect timing, because with that I will and can and am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G Plus Panels for making today's live show. It's been going on so long it seems like the after show, but there will be an after show to follow if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. So stay tuned. If you are watching this and are wondering why I'm totally confused, it's because the live show doesn't normally last this long, and that's thrown me completely off, along with Arwin joining late on the last introduction. So I'll say it one more time. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premium stream. I've been Nathan Oakley in a befuddled way. I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The very first one where you effectively stated, when you're talking to someone that is a glober, so you're like, right, I'll be the glober, you'll be the flat earther, right? And I'm going to ask you a question, right? And you effectively stated about the horizon, okay? And the answer to the question was supposed to be, you're going to need R for that, right? Right. So, the answer is refraction, basically. What do you do when they hit them with refraction? That's where it started. So I'm just asking you to do that, and then so that he can see how it should go.
What kind of refraction?
There you go.
Exactly. What kind of refraction? You know. So
that's when the stuttering starts.
So let's bring a little closure to it. So when they say refraction, you say,
what kind of refraction?
And then they say, and then that's where the conversation could start.
Exactly.
Or you could just straight out say, do you mean terrestrial refraction? Ask it, right? Directly. Because, of course, they're going to mean terrestrial refraction because regular refraction is actually negligible, right? in angular deviation output. So they must be talking about terrestrial refraction. But it's good to kind of highlight that while the conversation is still going, so they realize that as well.
I can
And not
summarize.
Well, the
easily
last-
mix it
Hold
up.
on. I can summarize the entire argument and the rebuttals in 7 words. Goes like this: Black Swan. Refraction! You'll need R for that.
That's it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Effectively, yeah, exactly. Which
That's
is,
it.
as Tem said, he goes, what do you do when they say refraction? And, for
They're
Tommy,
saying
it's
what?
just as simple as just saying, well, what type of refraction? And then not only that, if you're saying refraction, right, then thus you're handing me the argument, thus meaning if it is refraction, the horizon, therefore you cannot derive any geometry from it. It cannot be measured to because it's no longer a physical location for you to measure to in order to derive any geometry. Ipso facto, you've given me the argument. Ipso facto, it's not a ball of geometric nature or physicality.
I want to make a future numpty prediction if I can.
Oh, yes,
I think
please.
at some
Go
point
ahead.
they're gonna say nobody claimed the geometric horizon was visible.
They've already said that. AB
Already
science.
been said.
Nobody claims the geometric.
Literally not visible?
Nobody claims we can see the geometric horizon. That was Planar Walk, and nobody
Tommy.
claims we will see physical
Yo.
geometry was AB science. That's right. Nobody claims we'll see physical geometry. No, that was Planar Walk, and nobody claims we'll see the physical horizon or the geometric horizon was AB science. I've got these trimmed out. I'll stick them on. If this becomes a good discussion, it'll end up being on the video, beginning of this trimmed out video.
All right. But
thought
if they
Tommy
say
said
it
it
like I
too.
did,
Hey, don't
it
forget.
would be more funny though if they just
Don't-
say, like, no, you cannot. You can say you cannot see the geometric horizon. But anyway, never mind. Let's move on.
Don't forget Tim Osman's statement.
Nobody's claiming the horizon is
That's
Earth
who I
curve.
meant. That's who I meant. Timmy, not Tommy. I'm sorry.
He didn't refer to geometry. He said nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve.
Right.
Which is
But-
much
Right, but
more
doesn't
widely
that-
devastating, really.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't him saying that on the heels of what John, father of a stolen child, said about dip angle to the horizon to derive geometry, you need the tangent line, and this is what Al-Biruni is credited with?
The whole claim of Earth curve is based or predicated on the idea that you can measure a geometric physical sphere edge horizon known as Earth curve. And it isn't. We've debunked it with the Black Swan. It's the end of the argument. On screen now is the horizon beyond 9.4 miles, which is where this platform lies, platform habitat. Now, there are clearer images that, when I suggested they should be used, Quantum Eraser effectively pointed out how the argument dies on its arse the moment they say refraction. So he used one that had refraction in it, so that they say refraction, because you've got bendy cranes when the argument is about the horizon. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the observer's height in feet for this observation is 1 foot, putting the geometric limitation at 1.2 miles. And the horizon is beyond 9, probably beyond 20, probably beyond that. This is at 9.4 miles. So therefore the horizon's way beyond 10 miles. Not at 1.2. Therefore, ergo, the horizon is not Earth curve. It's beyond the geometric limitations, and therefore cannot be derived by Al-Biruni dip angle measurement to give you an R value. The Black Swan annihilates the claim that we're on a ball, because the ball has got a physical geometric limitation called Earth curve. It is the horizon for a ball believer. We've debunked it. Horizon's not Earth curve, and if it's not Earth curve, you can't get R from it.
The horizon we see is not Earth curve.
We only have one
Isn't that where
horizon.
they pulled-
We only have one horizon, and the horizon in there begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculator is geometric, Arwin.
Yeah, that's true, but there's other types of horizon horizons out there as well, celestial horizon, topographical horizon, etc., etc. But the horizon we see, above all, is not geometric.
Well, all of the
What
other
was
ones are
Albert-
imaginary. A geometric horizon would be physical, like a beach ball held up in front of your view. That's a physical limitation obscuring your view. Well, all the rest of the imaginary horizons you describe don't form a limitation to your view.
What
That's
was
why
the-
you get the
Indeed.
infinite answer, isn't it? As they try to cling on to the horizon being formed by the edge of a sphere. That's why they regress to infinite over 6 refraction, or infinite refraction, I think it was at Ruif.
Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to need R for that infinite over R refraction, though, aren't you, Adam?
Totally, still.
Infinite R.
In terms of within like the black swan, you see, because it is so far away, it's just not reasonable to even use 7 over 6 to try and pretend, because it would still be apparently curved even with 7 over 6. Yeah, so they have to have this infinite R, don't they? Where this infinite refraction, sorry, that basically means, yeah, it magically resolves it flat. It's such a lovely refraction day. Every single bit of it means the whole image renders as if it's flat.
Right, it's like an inward spiraling snail house refraction. Infinitely spiraling inward.
I'd like to go back and forth with Adam on something if he's willing.
Well, I'm going to say no. Go on.
All right. So let's go. Just as short of answer as you can give it, Adam. What did Al-Biruni do before he went on top of the mountain?
Yeah, he needed to ascertain how high the mountain was. That height is needed for his secondary calculation, but he had to do a first calculation to figure out how high the mountain was.
For the audience's benefit, just for the audience's benefit, on screen now marked H would be the height of the mountain in an Al-Biruni dip angle measurement. I appreciate this is Andrew Thomas Young's diagram where they're showing how he can't do this, but conveniently he's got Al-Biruni's dip angle measurement with O to G and then assertion of R. That's how the dip angle measurement is made. So this diagram still shows it when they justify why they can't get it. This is Andrew Thomas Young with a donkey dick horizon, as we called it. Anyway, feel free to continue, Adam and 10th.
So, Adam, what was the purpose of getting that first measurement of the height of the mountain? What did he use to do that?
To do that, he used triangulation. So he used because obviously what you can't do is get to the exact center of the bottom of the mountain. Otherwise, you can just measure it. So you have to create two triangles, basically, at different distances from the mountain, and then measure those angles and measure the known distance between the 2 points. That allows you to then use trigonometry to calculate H, the height of the mountain that they'll then use.
Let's go a little bit simpler. So the first measurement was from the base of the mountain, looking at the top of the mountain for what purpose?
To ascertain the height of the mountain.
And did he use 2 straight lines to do that?
He uses 3 straight lines. The straight lines measured from the observer to the top of the mountain, another straight line from the other observation point to the top of the mountain, and then a third straight line between the 2 observation points.
Okay. So then when he went up to the top of the mountain with that in hand, did he do the same thing with his dip angle correction to the horizon?
No, because he's got a contradiction there in terms of how he's using the surface. When he goes up the mountain, he's assuming the surface is curved. But when he's at the bottom of the mountain to ascertain the height of the mountain, he makes the assumption that the surface is flat.
Got it on screen.
Tim,
if you want to follow along, this is in Master B. I'll just read what it says. This is from a site describing how Al-Biruni derived the dip angle measurement to get R. And in the first section, it's giving what Adam's just given with the formula. These values were then computed with simple trigonometric techniques to find the height as shown in the figure above. This is a relatively simple and easy to understand problem I even used to solve these types of problem back in school. Biruni used the following formula, and it shows it below.
It's a lot easier to describe with the boots there. Yeah, so in the diagram, you can see that what they need to measure are the two angles, theta1 and theta2, and also D. From that, you can then use the formula there to calculate H. As you can see, D is represented. Most likely going to use the C, aren't you? Or a very flat desert. But the point of it being, it's a flat, straight line. If he was to represent that in any way, as Earth curvature that he's going to presuppose later, he can't then use the formula as stated, because to do it, again, we get paradoxical here. To use any form of angular calculation, even on a curved surface, you'd need to know the rate at which the surface is curving. So to be able to do the calculation to know how high the mountain is so that you could work out R, you'd already need to know R to figure out the distance D.
But he didn't. It's on screen. Referenced from a site describing how Al-Biruni did it himself. He measured the height of the mountain on a flat plane to then move up it and assume the horizon will give him a dip angle measurement over a curved surface to derive R. But the height is acquired from a flat plane. It is as simple as that. It's on screen.
Yes. Let me continue with Adam. That was a good summary there. Adam, Al-Biruni was not aware of refraction.
Couldn't be. I've got to cover that. I'm sorry, Adam, to jump over you. It can't be because he's measuring. It's on screen. Perfect timing. So on screen now for my audience is the Al-Biruni dip angle measurement. And the 90 degree that he's got at C couldn't be acquired if he had refraction. Furthermore, he wouldn't be even... It would be farcical for him to take into consideration refraction because he's measuring something geometric. That's the whole point.
I'm just playing along. The whole story stinks. The whole
So
story
glad you went over
stinks.
that with Adam.
Oh, shut up, Neil. Go ahead, Adam.
I'd not thought of that. This is the second point, isn't it? The top of the mountain wouldn't be where the top of the mountain would be anyway. When he's measuring his first angles, would he? Because it'll be refracted. So he takes his angle measurement, theta1 and theta2. But of course, they'd be wrong as well. Theta1 would be more wrong than theta2. They'd be subject to more terrestrial
It's
refraction.
so frustrating. He can't be taking the refraction into consideration. Why? Well, because what is theta1 and theta2? What are they?
The straight lines.
Well, they're angles. Acquired from what now? Straight lines, you say?
Yeah.
So, refracted? No, that would be absurd. Can you appreciate my frustration over this,
Bendy
Adam?
light and all that.
Well, that's the whole point, Nathan. The whole point is this is the paradox. They have to go into it with the presupposition that they live on the sphere. Just yesterday, I wonder if Virus watched that show yesterday, if he's ready to come on. I see him in chat before we went off.
Let me ask him. Hold on. Let me just ask him. Virus, you don't have to have done this. It's not homework and you're under no obligation. However, you suggested you might be inclined to check out yesterday's live show to get the presentation details that was presented by 10th Man. Have you done that? If not, fine. If you have, great.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's up
I
to
did.
him. But
Hold on, 10th. He said he did.
okay, and my challenge is, can you debunk it now that you've seen it?
I mean, what is there to debunk? I mean, the assumptions are fine. Everything seems fine mathematically. I don't.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to the Flat Earth. The way you use the sextant works the same on both models. The results are different.
No, they don't.
No.
No, you haven't got any straight lines on a globe to use a sextant. Did you not hear Bob's show?
That's-
Where'd you get a straight line for a sextant? I don't have one. So what do you mean they work the same? The tool uses straight lines and you don't have any on a globe. So how can you say it works the same? It doesn't work at all on a globe.
It works the same.
Where'd you
There's
get a
no
straight?
way
Okay,
that it
ask
works
you what I
differently.
asked Bob.
Do you?
Ask you what I asked Bob. Where'd you get a straight line for it then? Given you're an atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, always refraction. Where'd you get a straight line for the sextant to work the same as it would on a flat plane? Go ahead.
Same answer. You use your vision. You're
Well, no,
not
when you-
applying the different.
When you use your vision on a globe, the light's refracted. You're seeing the light bend into your eye at a rate based on an R value you can't acquire because everything's always refracted on a globe. So you are incorrect when you say you just look and see a straight line, because black swan, if you just look and see a straight line, then the straight line to the horizon that's supposed to be your Earth curve edge is way beyond its geometric limitations. So if you say we just see a straight line, black swan, or you concede that the sextant cannot work on a globe, no straight lines to acquire. Not just look and see, because black swan.
There's nothing wrong with the black swan. The black swan.
Sorry, you just said we look and we see a straight line. If we're just looking and seeing straight lines and we're ignoring the fact that everybody for the last 20 months has told us that refraction is what we need to be taking into consideration, that would be rate of R-based terrestrial refraction that we must adhere to always because we're in sphere-shaped air. If you're saying we ignore those 20 months, then it's a straight line to the horizon. Well, the horizon's beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere radius 3959. Third time I've said it to you. Black swan, if we look and get a straight line.
You're not looking at a straight line.
Well, then you can't use this tool on a globe. If you're not looking and getting a straight line, it measures angles. So as I said in the first place, this tool doesn't work the same as it does on a flat plane. It doesn't work at all on a globe. You haven't got any straight lines. If you just look and see, ignoring 20 months of everyone barking refraction at us, then black swan, horizon beyond the geometric limitations that your straight line would be giving you. Earth not a sphere, horizon not Earth curve. Black swan, fourth time.
Black swan is fine. You used.
Fine. Welcome to flat Earth. Horizon's not a sphere is the conclusion of the black swan.
It's not a property of the shape of the Earth. Refraction is a property of light.
Yeah, so therefore, if refraction's a property of sphere-shaped air in your world, you can't use the sextant because you haven't got a straight line for it. Like Bob told us, where'd you get a straight line for the sextant? I don't have one. And neither do you. And if you just say, I just look and get a straight line, well then if we're just looking and getting straight lines, then the horizon distance is beyond the limitations of a geometric sphere edge with a straight line to it. Black swan, fifth time.
It would be the same on a flat Earth. Y'all also have refraction as well.
Sorry, we're not making a claim of a geometric physical limitation at the horizon, though, are we? So what are you talking about in terms of our claim? Are you trying to burn a little straw, man? What have we claimed again?
Y'all don't have.
Sorry, it would be the same on a flat Earth. What, the horizon you think's Earth curve? No, we don't claim that. You're not going to tell us what your straw man you were going to burn is, or you're just going to stutter?
No, I'm talking about refraction.
Yeah, for what claim that we have made third time?
Do flat Earth does
Do
not.
you need to ask me a question about the little straw man you were about to burn?
No, I'm asking you about.
No, I think you do, because you did.
Well, I'm asking you about your.
Well, don't ask me something. I'm asking you about the straw man you're about to burn. You seem to be wanting to segue away from it. Is it respawn time, because you're dead? Black swan, you say we look through the sextant and get a straight line to the horizon. All right. That's interesting, considering 20 months of being told refracted. But, considering you say we look, we get a straight line, black swan, horizon beyond the limitations of a geometric sphere edge. A la your maths. Earth not a sphere, horizon not Earth curve.
Does the refraction not happen on flat Earth?
Sorry, so we've got refraction now, so we haven't got a straight line now. Can't seem to make up your mind. Is it refracted, or is it a straight line that we just look and see?
Is refraction only the...
So it's refraction now, because you're asking me about your refraction that needs R. Well, if you're claiming refraction, you're going to need an R value for it, and that's derived from a physical geometric limitation at a geometric point you think's Earth curve at the horizon. So if it's refracted, how are you going to refract it when your refraction through atmosphere sphere-shaped air needs R? You haven't got an R because you can't measure it. The horizon's now refracted, according to you. Do you want to tell me you've got a straight line again? For this tool you can't use, that would be the sextant.
Actual refraction.
We don't even need the horizon for a radius.
Sorry, you don't need a radius. That sounds familiar. Tell me again that you don't need a radius for a sphere-shaped Earth.
We don't need the horizon for a radius.
Sorry, we've just gone through. It's still on screen how Al-Biruni got it.
Yeah, who said I'm...
Sorry, yeah.
You don't need it?
Yeah, we don't need it. I've got it on screen. It's still on screen from our discussion about where Al-Biruni got the radius value from. But you don't need it, even though it's literally still on screen for my audience. So Al-Biruni, let's just forget about him. Doesn't exist. Didn't get the R value by way of dip angle to the horizon. We don't even need it.
That's not the only way to get the radius. There are
Citation,
multiple
please.
ways.
Citation.
Well.
Citation, please.
Okay. It's like basic math stuff. Hold on, give me a second.
Sorry, basic maths.
Yeah, when you're done with them, I'd like to have a few minutes.
Well, where'd you get R?
I'm about to show you.
Tell us.
Just use the circumference.
Sorry, you'd need the R value originally to have a circumference.
What? No, you don't. They're linked together. You can figure out one to find out the other. If you don't know one and you know the other, then you automatically know the other one because you know one. They're linked. That's basic math.
So you're saying that you can acquire a spherical circumference to then derive R?
Yes.
And how
Yeah.
would one acquire this spherical circumference?
Do you know what a spherical circumference is?
Is your claim.
Okay, the way you're saying it makes it seem like you don't really understand what a circumference is.
Oh, what, two-dimensional, you mean? Yeah, that's my way of asking you why you would be assuming sphericity in my phraseology. Did you like it?
Because we don't live in a 2D world. So no, we don't live on a circle.
Oh, right, but when you're measuring a circumference, that's a three-dimensional measurement, is it?
Well, when you're measuring the
Yes, it is, or no, it isn't.
you're using the slice of a
Sorry,
circle.
is that a yes or a no?
For what?
When you're measuring this circumference value, yeah, my phraseology was to lead you into describing how you're assuming sphericity to get an spherical R value, but you haven't yet answered me. So this circumference is two-dimensional or three-dimensional? You're yet to answer.
It's the same in math.
Sorry, the same?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So at some point when you make this two-dimensional circumference measurement, you will be assuming that that is part of a spherical measurement then. That's your assumption.
Well, I think that assumption is nice to make.
Oh, so it is definitely an assumption then. So it's an assumption. So that makes your argument void. You're assuming sphericity when claiming you can measure an R that's from a sphere. Hello? First, you've got to assume you're on a sphere to get this R value. Otherwise, you're just drawing a big circle and getting an R for that. But for the fact that you've assumed that this circle you're going to draw, don't know what it is from yet, but we'll find out, I'm sure. It's on the outside edge of a sphere, though, according to this assumption you're making.
It's the slice of a sphere.
Sorry, you've assumed that.
Do you not understand that part of...
Sorry, don't fucking ad hom me. Yeah, that would be where he's shot in the face, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. This is a begging the question fallacy. He's going to make a circle and then say, the centre of this circle, the R value in this two-dimensional measurement, is actually the same as the spherical R value if it was three-dimensional. If I assume it's spherical.
It's one of them. Yeah.
Sorry, you've assumed it's spherical. It's a begging the question fallacy, you dick.
Well, are you assuming that we live on a...
Sorry, so let's conclude. He hasn't got a spherical R value from his assumption when he makes a circle, gets a radius for that, and then says that his assumption that that's the same as his spherical R value is going to fly. Does not give you a sphere R value, you stupid moron. So, bye-bye, argument. This is the end.
It's not assuming...
Sorry, it's an assumption. You've already admitted it. Now shut up.
May I continue with him on the other argument?
Yeah, fine, whatever.
Okay, for you, Virus, I have a question. Virus, for you, I have a question. Is Earth a sphere, or do you assume it as a sphere?
Earth's a sphere.
Okay, thank you for answering that. And you said you saw my presentation yesterday fully, correct?
Yeah, you assume it to have an infinite radius.
Okay, hang on. The last slide says, consistent with celestial assumptions, obviously not what you are because you know, but these people in the presentation are dealing with celestial assumptions. The Earth and the celestial meridians do not rotate. All bodies on the celestial sphere rotate 15 degrees per hour past the celestial meridians. By you saying that Earth is a sphere and you know it, and there's no assumption at all from your standpoint, how is this possible that this official source is saying the Earth does not rotate and the celestial meridians do not rotate at 15 degrees per hour? Don't you have a lagging inconsistency with your Coriolis argument that everything moves with the Earth lockstep?
No, that's an assumption they make to make it easier for the person, so they have to do less math and stuff.
An assumption? What? Hang on. Say that again.
What?
Waiting for you to repeat
Okay.
it.
It's basically they make the assumptions like that to make it easier for the person. They even say it in the presentation in your first paragraph or whatever. They basically say they're making assumptions to make it easier for the person to make their calculations, and that's that's okay in mathematics. That's fine.
So, what possibly could be another reason they might be saying it and using the mathematic cloak as a cover? What can be another reason they might be saying it?
I don't know. They said it in the first paragraph why they said it. So I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay, well, let me just read it. Assumptions. We make certain assumptions to simplify celestial navigation. Is that what you're referring to?
There you
Okay,
go.
good. Let's finish. Okay, well, now there you go. Let's finish. These assumptions help you obtain accurate lines of positions without a detailed knowledge of celestial astronomy. However, celestial positioning is more than extracting numbers from various books. A working knowledge of celestial concepts helps you cross check your computations. First, assume the Earth is a perfect sphere. Begging the question. That puts every point on the Earth's surface equidistant from the center, forming to the terrestrial sphere. Next, assume, begging question number 2, the terrestrial sphere is the center of an infinite universe. Finally, assume, third begging the question, all other bodies except the moon are infinite distance from the terrestrial sphere. Watch this word, imagine them on the inside of a surface of an enormous concentric sphere. The celestial sphere, if the stars, planets, sun are infinite distance from the Earth's center, then the Earth's surface or aircraft's altitude is approximately the center of the universe. Do you know how many deaths that the heliocentric model just experienced right there? Do you have any idea how you can read this and not see what we are pointing out?
Those are all okay assumptions to make because those assumptions aren't real. So, but they will make your math easier.
Wait a minute. If the assumptions aren't real now?
Welcome to Flat Earth.
They're assumptions. Earth is not a perfect sphere. The space is not infinite. What else was the other one you said? all the stars and stuff are not equal distance, infinitely equal distance away from us. Those are assumptions to make the math easier for you.
Why can't the math work without guessing or assumptions? Why can't the math work with facts, actuality?
Okay, in geometry, you're basically making measurements intrinsically because you're on the surface of the sphere. On the surface of a sphere, you can easily make it easier for you by identifying that face of the sphere as the plane by giving that circle an infinite radius.
How'd you get
That
on the
makes the math.
surface of that sphere? How did you get on the surface of a sphere? Didn't you have to assume it?
No, you should know this before you start dealing with this.
No, the question is.
Excuse
the
me.
question-
Excuse me. That was the conversation I just had with you, Virus. Yes, you absolutely assumed it. You admitted it.
No, I don't assume.
So now you're just lying. You admitted it. It was an assumption. When you took the 2D circumference value, transposed it into a radius value on a sphere, that was your assumption. We established that. Just because you came back, respawned 5 times, doesn't mean that that didn't happen.
You didn't let me finish what I'm saying.
Oh, so I didn't let him finish. No, I shot you in the face and then teabagged your dumbass. Because you made a assumption when you drew out a 2D circumference, that would be drawing a circle, and made the assumption that you were acquiring a spherical radius from it. Your assumption of a sphere. Laid out very clearly. I did understand you did assume a sphere. You're going to need R for that.
No, you don't assume 3 dimensions. We live in 3 dimensions.
See, that's you assuming it, you daft twat. You don't assume 3 dimensions. We live in 3 dimensions. Oh, we don't beg the question. We really beg the question.
We live in 3 dimensions.
So you're begging the question.
I see length, width, and depth.
Yeah, and your length, width, and depth are in a sphere with an R value.
I'm not in a sphere.
Well, welcome to Flat Earth then. Good for you. Nice to know you've moved on.
I don't think anybody on the globe thinks they're in a sphere.
Oh, well, welcome to Flat Earth. It's nice that you're on our side finally.
That's
Come
not
on,
a flat
Virus.
Earth trait.
You know you're playing on words here. So you live on a sphere, right? Is that what you're saying? You live on the sphere rather than inside the sphere? Is that what you're trying to say here?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's you begging the question, you daft idiot.
I don't have to beg the question.
You just did. That is you begging the question, you daft idiot.
It's so funny.
What's the begging the question?
Assuming your outcome.
He was right about something.
Go on, John.
Wait, is it? He's begging. That.
He was right about something when he said that the radius and the circumference would be intrinsically linked. If you can't measure the radius of a sphere, you're not measuring the circumference of a sphere either. Yeah, you were absolutely right about that.
You can get the radius. But it's not a perfect sphere, so you only be getting.
Right, the perfect sphere that you assume. It's not a perfect sphere, I'm assuming.
It's not a perfect sphere.
That I'm assuming when I beg the question and then make it bold statement that I don't need to assume a sphere. When I make the statement like, it's not a perfect sphere, you're assuming.
Not.
You're assuming a sphere. Are you dumb?
Yeah, this sounds perfectly logical. So it's not a perfect sphere. So instead, let's calculate it as if it were a flat plane. Or calculate it as if it were a perfect sphere and not just a flat plane because it's not a perfect sphere. That's a ridiculous train of thought, really.
Perfect or imperfect, you're assuming a sphere.
I think he meant perfect sphere.
No, it gets worse because he's trying to say they do all these assumptions to make the math easier. Well, I've never heard of anyone say at a business deal saying, look, I'll give you 3 of these for 4 of that. And the other guy says, look, make it easy on me. Say you can give me 400 of those for 6,000 of this, then I'll get it.
That's not the same.
You're crazy. You are so daft. You can read your own material and still stay brainwashed. I mean, I don't understand when they say that all bodies rotate at 15 degrees, and then they're claiming that the Earth isn't one of those bodies. That's the end of your sphere.
But 10th man, you have to
That's an
calculate it as
assumption.
if it were flat because it's not a perfect sphere. Don't you understand?
No, I know where you're saying, Arvin, but the point is, if they have to go to an extent of saying the only way it works is to believe it like a flat earther, but then after that we have to stay ballers, who's got the psychosis?
You're exactly right there, 10th. Honestly, you're completely correct. I just don't understand. He's not understanding how he is presupposing spherosity again when he takes a circumference of a concentric ring, and then apparently he can get a radius value from the circumference. It's 2D, and he wants to impose it to 3D because he sees in 3D in reality. That's in the maths, dude. Think about what you're saying.
How do you get the radius of a sphere?
Your problem. Not ours. Why are you asking
No,
me?
I'm
I
asking you.
don't. I don't.
This
and
is
you haven't.
basic geometry. This is
I
geometry.
don't.
This has nothing
You
to do with the shape
haven't.
of the earth.
And rumpus in begins. I don't. You haven't.
Clown,
and the
you don't
one-
understand geometry.
Oh God.
So tell me.
Yeah,
how
you
do
asked me a
get the
question.
radius of
You
the
just
sphere?
asked me where I get a radius for a sphere. I say I don't. You haven't. And the way that it's claimed to be done has been debunked by us.
Where? I didn't say where. I said how. Not where do you get a radius for a sphere. How do you get the radius
Not
of
our
a sphere?
problem.
Not with the bent
And I
tangent.
replied. Did you hear my reply?
Yeah, this is the answer of mathematics. So how do you do it? What's
Sorry,
the formula?
your answer of your
I
mathematics.
thought it was geometry.
Completely ignore
What's
me.
the formula for it?
Sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. I'll try it one more time. This is not my claim. I don't need to acquire a radius because I'm not claiming to have one.
I'm not saying that you claim to have one,
So why are you asking me how I'd get it?
because this is basic geometry.
For you to do for your begging the question fallacy that you live on a sphere. That's right. So how do you do it, dipshit?
Shape of the earth. Nothing to do with the shape of the earth.
Sorry. Well, why the hell are we doing this? This is flat Earth debate. You just need it to be a little segue away from it being about Earth while you talk about how we get radii to spherical surfaces so that later you can transpose that onto Earth later. Yeah, we know. We're not stupid. This isn't our first rodeo. You must beg the question. So, for no apparent reason now, according to Virus, nothing to do with nature of Earth, we're going to discuss how we get radii. Why? Well, no reason. No, really? No, there is a reason. You need R and can't get it. The way it's claimed to have been gotten, we've debunked. And now you want us to explain to you how we get a radius. We don't need one, dipshit.
I never said you needed one.
So why are you asking me how I'd get one then, diphead? Hello?
He's going
Because
back to
this is a
basic
simple question,
geometry.
Nathan. Hello?
Because you need to beg the question. And you want me to do
Who
it
wants
for
to do it
you.
together? Let's do it together.
No, I don't
Like
want you to
with
do
the,
it for me.
other-
I just want
You
you to answer
measure
a
the
simple
diameter
question.
of the sphere.
If he wants
Take
to
a
split for
ruler
it.
and you measure the diameter of the sphere and can proceed from there on.
Only this straight line.
Kumo, you want us to do it for you because you're obviously
No, I don't want you to do it
you're
for
not
me.
positive. No,
I'm
you're
not-
Oh, yeah.
you're not capable
Do it with the bent
of
tangent
doing
line
it.
too.
I'm not giving you any. I'm not giving you any like pontificative information for you to do this for me. I'm just asking you a simple question of how
Why
you
did you
do
ask
something.
then?
I'm not.
Oh, okay, let's answer him. For a sphere. Well, Al Bruni did it with a dip angle measurement.
Perfect.
No, in geometry, it's not.
Yeah. Geometric physical sphere edge horizon was assumed by Al Bruni when he did it.
Use geometry. How?
Sorry, did you not hear my reply? Did you just chant straight through it? Yeah, that's right. Al Bruni was getting Earth geometry.
Perfect. Little segue there. Is this all right, Nathan? Just to question directed toward 10th. Since Al-Biruni did apparently, derive dip angles to the horizon and thus allowed him to apparently measure radius from horizon, obviously we know all of that is bunk, but the point is this. So in my dealings with effectively talking on the sextant, talking about how effectively you need a vertical and you need a horizontal, that you need a pocket, you need a 90-degree angle, effectively, at the end of the day, with triangulation to stars, effectively, right? We obviously know this is completely true. So this is a message that I received from somebody. I'm either presuming that it's Phil or it's some other guy, maybe Bob, I'm not sure. But he said, what a load of nonsense with respect to your description of how a sextant works. When you take a reading on your sextant, you are reading your latitude. The distance of 69 miles per degree to the GP of the star is based on a sphere. There is no triangulation. Where do you think latitude comes from? Where does degree in latitude come from? Where do you think the 69 miles per degree come from? Why don't you try dividing the circumference of Earth by 69 and see what happens? You get 360 degrees. Where do you think 360 degrees comes from? I bet you never mentioned this to your stupid friends. Even so, you'll never forget. You read the rest of it's pointless.
You want to answer?
Adam
You
here.
want to answer?
Well, I'd like Adam to answer that if he's there.
Go ahead, Ted.
No, Adam will answer it, but I'll cue Adam. You hear Adam?
Please, because I just had to step away, so I've just
Fine.
missed
Go ahead,
that
Ted.
last bit.
I know it was addressed to you anyway. It's Adam's point.
Yes. No, that's right. And I was going to defer anyway, but I'll answer it directly.
I remember
gonna-
Adam speaking on this.
You're going to need R for that. Everything
Thank
that guy
you.
just said, you're going to need R for.
Yeah, he's assuming it.
He's assuming it.
Correct.
But the second.
So my reply, which was you're going to need R for that, was correct.
Hang on. He's assuming it. Adam's going to go into detail with it. But the point is, a sextant is an angle measuring device. They agree with that. And there's a radius, which they agree is a straight line from each circle of altitude, equal altitude. And they need at least 2 of them to get a fix. 3 is better. Even 4 or 5 is much better. So that is a circle drawn on the surface of the Earth where the equidistant is somewhere on that circle. It's the same degrees, but you just don't know where you are. And in the middle is the subpoint or GP of the star or sun. And from that to you is radii, straight line. They all agree with this terminology. It's from their books. Now, the question is, how do you get a straight radius, which is ridiculous to say because it's obvious, over 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, even 10,000 miles from a circle of equal altitude? Well, you get it because the sextant can only work on the flat surface, and that's what it gives you. They can never achieve it on the curved surface.
So just before Adam, just to buy a bit more time, Mr. Plasma, can you repeat what you said a moment ago? Alma, rather.
What's that? To make sure he uses a bend tangent?
Precisely.
All right, get to it. Come virus.
Well, before Akumo says anything, that was my reply to the person that sent me that message, which was, again, how do you do this with a bent base of your triangle at the same time as you're going to need R for that? Adam, I added you in Master B so that you could read the comment that was sent to me, the one in which I just said the reply of.
I think R was right. They run from R. Run from R.
Latitude lines, longitude lines is basically a grid system. They don't actually appear anywhere on the Earth. They're fictitious. We use them, and they're based off the stars.
You back, Adam?
Yeah. I think I get the point. Yeah. The level guy 2, is it? Right, yeah.
It is indeed, mate. It is indeed.
Where do you think the 69 miles per degree comes from? Well, they tell us where it comes from. We look at Polaris, don't we? That's where we get it from, and that's where it's derived from. Real world observation and measurement. How do you apply that degrees, whether it's a straight linear function in the sky, or whether you do what they do, which is to switcheroo what you measure in reality and turn that degree of star position change into degree of rotation of the ball. So where do you, I think it comes from? It comes from the presupposition that changes in the position of a star are due to orientation of a ball Earth. But fundamentally, it requires another big presupposition, because we've got the distances in real world from A to B to work this out. But that's no good on a ball, because you can't just stick it on, as I've said before, any ball. What you have to do is stick it on a ball of a presupposed R value. That's how you get the 69. It's degree miles per degree, because it's derived on the circumference value, which is derived from R. Once you've got the circumference, you then divide that by 360, and you'll see that's becomes 69. Yeah, that's how you do. You have to pre-assume and back work your real work measurements. And like I say, I think fundamentally you change the degree measurement of something that's in real world calculable and is used for triangulation, and you take that degree measurement, and instead of it being the angular change of the star based on distance, it becomes the amount of rotation of orientation from away from the GP.
Can I have another bash at that, summarising it just for my own benefit more than anything? That was an excellent job, by the way, Adam. Kudos. So when you're positionally holding a sextant, looking at a star, we're going to say it's Polaris. And we're going to say that it's got 60 degrees. You've got 60 degrees to Polaris in your sextant. So that's the angle. You're forming the base of a triangle. And along your feet is a straight, flat line along the flat Earth we stand upon. And up to the star is the angle that you're measuring in the sextant. You then walk backwards 69 statute miles and then make the same measurement. You look at Polaris in the sextant. It's dropped towards the horizon by 1 degree. Now that is a measured angle drop. So the horizon is now closer to the star because you've backed away from it, and positionally it's got lower. And when you measure that angle difference, you've got 1 degree difference measured with the sextant at a backing away distance of 69 miles. Now, the switcheroo is taking that idea of that 1 degree drop towards the horizon and saying it's actually, now imagine, a protractor, a fully 360 degree protractor placed on the page. Now, instead of it being the actual measurement of it dropping by 1 degree as you back away from it, they're saying that 1 degree is now me twisting this protractor around by 1 degree. And that's why you've got the drop. So it's a switcheroo between what you actually do to get that measurement of the 1 degree drop every 69 miles to it's actually a 1 degree rotation on a sphere. Nod, nod, wink, wink. They don't do the nod, nod, wink, wink bit. They just hope you don't notice.
Hence, thus, then the
Can I just add
so-called
something?
appropriation of it being on a spherical ball. This is what I believe Adam was warning me about when we talk about sextants, and we talk about angles, and then we talk about degrees, and just using the term degree itself. Obviously, it's not an issue when we work it out ourselves, between ourselves, and we can speak about it and then explain to people what it is that they're doing with the switcheroo. But just by mentioning degree, they can do this form of switcheroo, I guess.
Yeah.
I've caught on to this
I
very
love
quickly.
it when you've got multiple meanings that can be applied. Because in this instance, where'd you get the degree on the triangle? Well, the degree represents a 360 degree circle pasted on at your feet. That's the angle measurement of 360 degrees. Well, they just move that down to the centre of the Earth and say that the Earth's rotating around that axis at 1 degree, rather than you backing away and taking another measurement with that protractor at your feet rather than at the centre of the Earth. So they're moving the protractor to the centre of the Earth and saying, no, the triangle you're measuring isn't getting more acute. You're actually just twisting around the protractor in the centre of the Earth, that I assume now. So just
Right, like-
somebody from Discord was trying to get a word in. Go ahead, whoever
That's
that was.
brilliant.
Like it,
Hold on just 1 second. The guy from Discord, whoever you were, go ahead.
Well, you just mentioned it just now. All of those lines of latitude, they all have a 90-degree angle to the GP of the star. All of them. It's on a flat plane. As you move away on your baseline, you get on a different circle of equal altitude, which gives you it's equidistant from the center. As you move outwards on that horizontal line, every single one of those lines of latitude, they have a 90 degree.
That's correct. So by depiction on screen now, if I say that I happen to be at S1, if you want to refer to 10th man's diagrams in Skype, guys, in G+. So if I'm at the base or the GP, that is the piece of land that star is directly over. So I sit below S1. Now, just by chance, somebody out in the North Sea happens to be triangulating their position, and they're using the star that's above my position. So they're measuring the angle from their location to the star that happens to be above me. Now, the line between me and that person measuring is flat. The box that is created, so if you take the zenith position of the person triangulating and my position, coincidentally my zenith is also S1's GP, you've got a square, a box. Not a square, but a box. And it has 90-degree angles from my position below the star to the triangulatable position. And everything between that, regardless of if there's a change in anything claimed to be on a sphere, the line between us is still flat. And that line, further to your point, George, extends out thousands of miles. So there could be someone else over here that happens to be, I don't know, another 1,000 miles away, and they've got a star above them. And the same exact person in the ocean, or in the sea, could be triangulating with that star, and they've got a straight flat line between them and it also, 1,000 miles away. So everything on this plane is flat. It can't not be. For this to work, it must be and is, because it works. There's no simplification involved. Take the world to be flat, and this works. Why? Well, because if it's flat, you can make a triangle with a 90-degree angle at the GP of the star. Do you make a triangle with a 90-degree angle to the GP of the star when triangulating? Yeah, you do. That's the nature of triangulation. So Earth, ipso facto, is flat. Good point, George.
Right, thanks, guys. That's brilliant. So my reply to him, obviously, I screamed out in the live stream as it was sent to me, was you're going to need R for that. And how did you get your 90-degree angle in the base of your triangle with a curved surface?
Exactly. It demonstrates an exemplary understanding of this triangulation argument there, crack villain. Well done.
But I just wanted to make sure I am getting it, because obviously this is like my, second week on the argument. So, yeah, thanks, dude.
This is an advanced argument. Not because it's a complicated process. In fact, it's simple once you understand it. But from an outsider looking in, especially being convoluted by other people describing processes that won't acquire 90 degrees. Again, props, crack villain. Exactly. Where are you going to get a 90 degree? Shh, don't mention the 90 degree. Right, 10th is their reply.
Yep, that is true. I got some slides for you, Master B.
Okay, did you want the last one with the blue circle and the triangulation?
Yeah, let me. Oh, you can go. Yeah, we'll go with that one first. In a very real sense, that's all there is to it. In principle, with a globe in hand, you listen to virus. You could go out on the deck with your sextant, measure the altitude of 3 stars, plot the GPs of those stars on the globe, subtract the altitudes you shot from, drum roll please, 90 degrees. It's over the minute they say 90 degrees, right there. Because that's a right angle to the observer. And you can see even on their sphere, they're forced to put the box of 90 degrees, saying that from that GP to the observer on the circle has to be a straight radius. To draw around each of the respective GPs where the 3 circles intersect your position. This is from your own books. You guys live in a fairy tale. You got paradox and contradictions everywhere, and you can't see it.
Indeed, the Earth is obviously, observably, and navigatably flat. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.